Two, check. Hey, I'm the Bunn. Welcome to Bandless. It is 8 p.m. Let's check that it is streaming over here. It is. Holy jumping. Everything's working. The software that we use here. Oh, an error occurred. Please try again later. Playback ID. Learn more. Ooh, that's not good. It seems that you're here. Let me take a look here. It looks as though 13 flaws. I hope you're well. Just bear with me here. I just got an error on my end about the stream. And, oh no, it's working. Great. So, you know, hello, 13 flaws. And hello, Reed Engel. Hope you guys are well. Yeah, I can see me too in the thing. It's just when I first went live, it said error, playback, playback error occurred, all these numbers and letters and all this technical stuff. Hope you're well. Baritone Cult, what's up? Hope you're well. Having an amazing evening. Tonight we're going to be getting into some stuff. Some of the other gang is going to join in as we go because everybody's schedules are crazy. Not is crazy, are crazy. And Nick Hill is back to working full time, meaning he's working on set a lot, traveling to other cities a lot. And when he is home, he's only home for a minute and, trying to catch up with his family and all that kind of stuff. So we're not sure how we're going to work it going into the future in terms of Nick Hill. He may just dip in and out on occasion when he's available. But I think the Bunn is just going to keep it going and because I don't want to toss it away. It's really good time. Hope you're all well, as always. And I have to update this graphic, but nonetheless, I'd like to thank everyone with us over at Patreon. Everyone in the past, everyone in the present, everything that's going on. Fantastic. And today's topic is I don't feel like it. And what's that all about? I'm sure a lot of us feel this way. Not much of the time, but there have been frequent experiences of this whole thing. P.S. Oh, I got my Barry News in my lower third. Oh, I better fix that, hey? Good eye, Jimbo. I'll put that on the screen because I can do that on this channel. Let's go to... I'm just going to do a quick mod here on the software. Bam, 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 bam. Logo. This is not the Barry News. Thank you, Mr. Jimbo. Keen eye. I'm not paying attention to that. There's so much stuff to look at. But yeah, today's topic is I don't feel like it. And we've all been there. No matter what kind of artist we are. When it comes to creative time, especially if most of us are working jobs, we all are working jobs of some extent. I'm still doing like some sort of pseudo freelance kind of stuff on occasion. But we're all working jobs. We all have our, maybe our families, our relationships, something. We all have a bunch of other stuff going on. And it can be real easy to feel beat down when it comes time to, I have a minute to do this music thing. I have a minute to do some graphic design. I have a minute to paint. Whatever your art is, it doesn't really matter. It's really easy to feel beat down and to think, I don't feel like it. And the thing about that I've found over the time, over the last 50 years of my life, is a lot of times for me, it's actually something else is going on. The thing that I look forward to the most, the thing that I enjoy most about life is creating things with the guitar, creating things with music. And I'm sure this is the case for many of you. Whether you seek to do it for money or not, for, to pay your bills or not. Maybe it's just for the purpose of personal interest, creative personal interest. Totally fine. You still need to kind of find the time to do it. You still need to have the motivation to do it. So that's what today is all about. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into tiny little chunks of what might be going on. It's going to be different for everybody, of course, in terms of what's going on in our heads that is keeping us from picking up the guitar and recording a few riffs as opposed to launching Netflix or playing that video game or just eating a bag of chips. Nothing wrong with any of those things. There is a time and a place for all of those things. Even a bag of chips is important sometimes. Savor the flavor. But we're going to talk about when those things become, become the norm, and the odd thing to do is to pick up the guitar. We don't really want that to happen. And that has happened for me. That has been my history in the past. I have had bouts of this for one reason or another. So we're going to talk about all of the reasons. I'm just going to say a few hellos. I already said hello, but I'm just going to go down the list one more time. 13 Flaws, Reed Engel, Baritone Cult, Cosman, Jimbo Collins, Lemon Melon, and Barry Prosser. Really good to see all of you. And I definitely say chime in on this topic. Share your kind of angle. It will be helpful to other people. Yeah, a lot of times the hardest thing to do is to start. Just starting is so hard. You would think it'd be so easy. But yeah, the very first thing we're going to get into, what we're going to talk about is barriers. What's going on with a lot of this is there's barriers going on that make it seem like it's going to be way harder to get going with picking up that guitar and coming up with stuff. We're just picking up that guitar at all. So what are those barriers? And I've broken it into 3 categories. I've kind of prepared this show. I try to prepare every show, but this show I've spent a little bit more time on it. But we've broken it into 3 categories, which is mental, physical, and creative in terms of categories of barriers. Barriers that you will find in your sort of mental game, in your physical game, whether it be your actual body or your physical space. And your creative barriers within creativity that we see. And sometimes we don't consciously see them. They're just kind of always there, and we don't give them time or focus, and they just keep gnawing on our shoulder, and we keep submitting, and we're like, I don't feel like it. I have the night free to play some guitar. I don't feel like it. You go straight to Netflix or whatever, television, YouTube, whatever. So we're going to start with mental. The mental game is probably the most important thing to address right away. I'm not a psychotherapist or anything like that. I've just worked through my own things. And we're going to talk about this as a conversation. So as I said, definitely chime in. Share your own experiences, your own thoughts on these things. This is about sharing. It's not about me telling you anything. I want to bring up the discussion. So in the mental game of barriers, things that are prohibiting us from just picking up the guitar at all, let alone writing a song, let alone writing an album, or doing anything, starting a band. All of those things take an incredible amount more. So the first in the mental barriers, most obvious one is lack of motivation. I think a lot of people cite this. I have done it. I'm like, I have no motivation. I'm not motivated at all. And a lot of times so my experience with motivation, and I'd like to hear your experience with motivation, your battle with motivation, is for the longest time, I thought about motivation as an outer game. And what does that mean? Outer game means I thought about motivation coming from the outside, coming from somebody else, something else, the right conditions, enough money, I don't know, a million other things. And I definitely got caught up in this, and this really ground my gears down to a halt, probably a couple times in my life, because we're looking for some kind of external gratification, some external motivation, some external thing. And to be really point blank here, there is none. Every now and again, you will, you'll hear a new band, or you'll see a movie, or you'll just see something beautiful in nature or in architecture. I don't know. There are a million things that you can draw inspiration from, but inspiration is not motivation. They are two different things, but I think they get confused a lot. And inspiration only works if you can muster the motivation to do things. And here, I'm talking like absolutes. I need to be like total disclaimer. This is a conversation. Chime in. I'm not telling anybody what to do. Very important. We're just talking about these things, and it's going to sound like I'm saying this is what you should do sometimes because I'm going to get carried away with it, but that's not what's happening. Sorry, the camera's up here, but when I look at the comments in the screen, so I'm not looking at the camera. I apologize. But yeah, I'm not telling anybody what to do. Very important. But yeah, the lack of motivation. Motivation is an inner game. So it is a decision. It's like I choose to do this. And there's a whole bunch of things to initiate motivation. So number one is choice. That's the biggest part of it. It's like, I choose to do this. And so if you're like, I'm not motivated, the conversation to have with yourself is like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to try this. Even for 5 minutes, set a timer or whatever. We can talk about hacks in a bit. But so we've mustered the motivation. Another barrier right after motivation, a lot of times is, okay, I'm motivated. What do I do? We're still in the mental game here. We got about 6 points in the mental game. Excuse me. But I've found some motivation, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And that's where I think before even having the motivation, before, being clear, it's like, what do I want to do? So I want to, pursue music on evenings and weekends whenever I have free time. And I'm going to keep track of my free time so that I make the most of when I do have the free time. And this is the kind of thing that I am going to pursue, at least to start. You need a starting point. The starting point can morph into something more, but you need somewhere to start. So I'm going to take my free time to come up with riffs and whatnot that I can use for a, coalesce botch inspired project. I don't know, pick something. Pick something really specific. Pick like 3 bands that can contribute to your sound, and pick like a style. Pick something. Pick a starting point. Because I found the motivation now, but I need something to do with my motivation. So you need to know what you want to do. And then, so the next part, we found the motivation. We know what we want to do, or at least we've chosen what we want to do. It can change. It's okay if it changes. But the next question, is it really what I want? Is the path you're going with your creativity in line with what you're actually excited about? Sometimes we're not honest with ourselves in that way. Like, I've known people who are in love with pop punk, like 90s NoFX style pop punk. They're in love with it. And everything they do musically is completely different then the thing that they absolutely love, the music they listen to the most, the thing that they love the most, that's not what they're doing. They're doing something else. There's nothing wrong with that approach, but sometimes it can be a barrier or a conflict. So does what you really want, what I really want out of music, does it line up with what I've chosen to kind of put myself to now that I've chosen the motivation, chosen to start? So these are all things that I've wrestled with, and I'm sure many of you have wrestled with in some way, you know. Maybe I'm a more tortured artist than others. I doubt it, but yeah, we're gonna get to some comments here in a moment. I'm gonna cap off the next few points, and then we're gonna talk about it. But yeah, keep anything you can think of in line with today's topic. Definitely get it in there, because a lot of people have a hard time with this, including me. The next thing, you know, we got it all sorted out. We're going. We're carving out the time. We're like, F it. I don't care if I'm a little bit tired. I'm gonna get going with this anyway. I'm gonna get started with this anyway. I know what I'm gonna get started with, and it's definitely in line with what I'm truly interested in. So a really important thing here, I've seen a lot of people trip up here. Can I accept that not all of the work will be fun in this thing? So it could be just that we are weekend warrior, and you know, this is open conversation for everyone. People who are weekend warriors, people who are going for it and like, I want to make a living off of this, all that kind of stuff. But let's say the scenario is I'm a weekend warrior. I'm doing it evenings and weekends, mostly for fun, but I want to share it in the world, and I want to connect with other people who are interested in these things, because that makes it better as soon as it becomes social, and I connect with other creative people or other even fans, whatever. That's amazing. Some of doing it even part-time just for fun, some of it will not be fun. So that part that might not be fun for, I hear from a lot of people, is drums. I hate drum programming. I hear that all the time. I understand it's tedious, and especially if you're cumbersome with it. But, you know, you get better at it and faster at it the more you do it. Real talk right there. But there could be a million reasons or a million examples of things that you don't like. Or I've done the demoing. I've recorded all the riffs. Now I have to assemble them into a composition, and I actually have to Play-Doh click and do it like nice and tight and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people hate that part because it's work at that point. It's no longer the creative sauce part. But when things really come together in a slick way, like it's all tight and like you've really worked out the kinks and the riffs and it all comes together, that's amazing. I think it's worth the work. You know, I'm not telling you what to do, but, you know, maybe changing the perspective of mind surrounding it. And also who that work that you've put in, who that work can connect you with. Other artists, other players, other, you know, people who are just interested in that kind of music. Because, you know, most of us are connected here, and that's amazing. So all things to think about. Can I accept that not all the work will be fun? A lot of people give up. They're like, oh, it's no fun. It's like, it feels like work. I'm like, yeah, everything good takes work. I know most of you know this, but I need to bring it up because it's easy to lose sight of this thing. It's music, you know, it's supposed to be fun. I do it for fun. Yes, but even if you're doing it only for fun, there is a work element to it. And if you have issues with the work part, some of the work part, it can, you know, I've seen it stop people. But focusing on the small part that you dislike versus the big part that you love, you know, you have the choice. in terms of where you put your attention. So being aware of like where your attention is might also be a cool hack. Not sure. Everybody's psychology is different. So these are all just ideas. So this is going to lead us into our next little bit. Can I accept that not all the work will be fun, or not all the work will be like just pure creativity? There is a fantasy with being a pure artist. I run into this all the time. And it's interesting. The majority of people that I have met in my life that have this fantasy of being the pure artist, just being purely creative, they're usually not very creative people. They usually make really generic things, and they're like so idealistic, like, oh, you know, it has to be pure. I can't do this street team, social media marketing, music. It's like, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But, you know, being aware of it, you know, is this a conscious thing, or is this just like a weird loop that you've created for yourself so that you can get off the hook? You can let yourself off the hook really easy. Well, that's not pure art, so I don't have to work very hard today. I don't have to do any work today. I can watch Netflix all day and be inspired by, you know, German subtitled movies, you know? These are real things. I've known these personalities. Thankfully, majority of my friends these days are all pretty, you know, whatchamacallit, pretty aware, self-aware, or at least very interested in being self-aware. Can admit it's like, I'm lacking self-awareness in this thing. I need to think about it. I need to work it out. Very helpful if you can get there. Last point in the mental game of barriers, that the things that are contributing to the I don't feel like it. Usually it's not I don't feel like it. Usually there's something else going on underneath all of that. And this is the last bit. Can I accept that it will be hard? Some of the things will be hard. This is similar to the can I accept that not all the work will be fun? But some things are just hard. Sometimes you're going to do like 100 takes to get the timing, you know. For those of you who are familiar with the Bunn's music, I have a project called Foreigns. There is a tune called Harbor and Colony, actually. They both have this sort of 6/4 section towards the end of the tune, both of them. They were both written at the same time, and I think it's almost the same groove in each song. But catching that groove when I very first wrote it, very first came up with it, I could play the drum part, like actual physically get on the kit and play it exactly like it is in the MIDI. But playing the guitar to it the way that I wanted to was super hard. And it took like an unbelievable number of tries just to get it at all, let alone get a good take. Getting a good take was like another project. This was just like getting it at all. Took forever. It was hard. But thankfully with those tunes, I was so jazzed about the idea, and maybe you guys have had this as well, where it is in fact really hard, and you're sweating your balls trying to get these parts down, and you're not getting it at all. But you can hear the possibilities, you can hear the potential. When it comes together, you're like, this is gonna be so jazzed. So, yeah. Sometimes it's hard. And sometimes it's hard and it sucks. But I think the greater thing, you know, spending a bunch of time getting better at music and outputting art at all, and connecting with a community that is interested in creativity is way more awesome than just watching Netflix and eating 10 bags of chips. But like I said earlier, sometimes Netflix and a bag of chips is exactly what you need. Just not all the time. But yeah, sometimes it's hard. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit now in the comments. I'm going to go back through some of this mental game stuff. What is your guys' sort of mental component that maybe gets in your way, or that you've gotten over, that you've identified? You're like, man, I keep, you know, putting myself down, or I keep putting it off till tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start. There, that's a really popular one. Whatever. What's your thing? I think with this mental game too, a lot of people see everything way too big. We've talked about this a lot here on Bandless. People look at like this really big picture, and all they need to do is just plug in the guitar and noodle for a minute. That's the barrier to entry. Plug in the guitar and start noodling, and then turn the noodling into something. Could be turn it into practicing, turn it into riffs, turn it into, okay, I got a riff, let's get some drums down and record it, whatever. But I'm gonna kind of work backwards here. I'm gonna make the screen bigger as well so I can read. 13 Fly says, I find it easy to set the goals, but sticking to them is a whole different kettle of fish. Then self-doubt starts to creep in and the vicious circle begins. Yes, we're going to talk about self-doubt, because I think self-doubt is tied to other things. And there's more to say about self-doubt. But yes, this is a real thing. 100% can relate to it. I've definitely found myself in this thing. What I was just talking about, you know, I set the goals and then sticking to them is a whole different kettle of fish. A lot of times sticking to them is difficult because it's too complex. You know, I've put in, you know, you hear that story about the cart before the horse. You know, well, I'm thinking about a fleet of horses and carts. I'm way beyond the horse and the cart, and I haven't even put a riff down. So it's really easy to not stick to things if you've created something too complex. Can you show up for a week and just play guitar, you know, for a dedicated amount of time, focused playing? I'm gonna sit down for 30 minutes every single day, or for 5 days a week, or every second day, and I'm gonna make a schedule of it. Can I do that? Pick a really small goal. I've been working through that the last few years, ever since I went solo, because I used to play in bands. You know, it was hard to do this because I always was used to working with bands where you have this band, you have this big thing, and it's more of a machine and things are happening and you can actually do more because there's more people involved and all of that. So yeah, if you're having difficulty sticking to your goals, I highly recommend making smaller goals until you can stick to it. Because, you know, if you want to, there's a saying, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Well, a busy person, in this regard, busy being a positive thing, but a person who is on a schedule doing things religiously is more capable of doing more. But you're not capable of doing more if you can't keep a schedule. So this is a really, really, really good point, 13 Flaws. It brings up so much. There's so much to unpack in it. We're going to keep going here, working backwards for a little bit, and then I'll work forward. Baritone Cult, love your drumming, Bunn. One of the first riffs that caught my attention, and the Killer Bear riffs. Oh, I guess like the Colony and the Harbor kind of stuff. Yeah, it took an unbelievable amount of work for riffs that sound so simple. But I didn't give up. I guess I could see, I was pretty jazzed about it. And if you can see a great end and be motivated by it, it's a huge plus. Joe Carter says, I definitely feel that I enjoy every part of the process except tracking guitars, restringing, setting up my guitars, and that's what I'm putting off right now. Yeah, I know it. You know, I have this thing. Actually, we talk about it a lot here on Bandless, and a lot of the folks in the comments have contributed to that exact idea of being set up as much as possible to begin with. Have your interface plugged in, have everything by your side so that there are less barriers, and that if you have to restring, well, it's a minor thing. You only have to restring the one time. And or not the one time, but it's the only barrier. And it doesn't include setting up your DAW. Do I have to bring you in, Synth Chris? Or were you going to bring yourself in? Okay, check this. Hello, how about now?
Yes,
It
perfect.
works. It works.
You
We got it
figured
figured
it out.
out.
You're a genius.
Yeah. So, hello, Synth Chris, everybody. Synth Chris. And, you got a 1:1 aspect ratio. Or
Yeah, I don't.
maybe 1:2 aspect ratio?
4:3 going. Oh, I see.
4:3. There you go.
Bam! Look at that.
Yeah, widescreen.
It's so wide.
But Synth Chris, we're talking. We're hanging in the chat. Joe Carter's saying, the small barriers that get in the way. It's like it's time to retrack guitars, which already is like I don't feel like retracking guitars, but I know they're going to sound better if I retract them. But I also have to restring, and it's just like another layer. And you're like, But for me, I'm curious your thought. For me, I know I've done it enough times now. I know that in the future, I'm going to feel so much better if I just muscle through it.
Yeah, that's if I can convince myself to do it, I know it'll save myself a lot of hassle. While I'm waiting for someone's vocals, just retract the guitars or just do something that I've been putting off. So just restringing my guitar.
Restring the guitar so you can get to the next thing. And also something I was talking about earlier is small. Thinking about everything like one thing at a time. Instead of thinking about restringing my guitars, I got to retrack everything. The drums are a bit wonky and I got to fix them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Don't worry about any of that. First thing, restring the guitar. Okay, good.
Yep.
Next thing, get my tones going, whatever, start tracking, etc. One thing at a time. Do you find yourself in that as well, where you have this big list of things and you're like, I don't feel like doing any of it?
I think so. Yes, more often, maybe with like coding stuff, I'll find myself getting overwhelmed with that. Music, maybe not so much. But when I do, just take it one at a time, right? Don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, huge. Gonna grab, if you want to take a look at some comments here. A lot of these comments are in line with, I'm not sure, like I know you just got home from work and all that kind of stuff. But we're talking about the sort of mental side of barriers. I don't feel like it. What's actually going on in that? And the points were lack of motivation, knowing what we really want to do, and then being true to ourselves. Is what we want to do actually something we're excited about? Can we accept that not all the work will be fun? And some people having the fantasy of being a pure artist and, having a hard time having to, take care of all of the other stuff that comes with it. They just want to do pure art, which is fine. I'm not cutting it down. I'm just saying this is something that people wrestle with when a lot of times it's not even a thing that's on their docket. And then finally, can I accept that some of it will be hard, actually difficult? Not only just fun, not fun, but actually difficult.
Yeah. Oh, also, one thing before we get into it, I will be heading out at 6 or maybe a little bit earlier.
No problem.
Yeah, just
not a worry at all. So Chris is with us for the next half hour, and then I think Miles might be dipping in.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, which is actually super fun. Merry-go-round of rad dudes.
Yep.
We're gonna grab what Reed Engel is talking about here. It doesn't help that the only time I really get to play is after my kids are in bed. It seems like I only play when I'm tired. Yeah. Chris, you're in school full time and you work jobs and you're doing like what do you call it?
The internship thing?
Internship. I guess you're not in school right now though. You're doing an internship
Yeah.
and working a job
Yeah.
and doing music and doing home life and all that kind of stuff. You can relate to this.
Yeah, and one of the people in my band, he's got kids and he's got jobs and all that. So I hear some of this too from him.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's tough.
Mhm.
But I think in this regard, I used to work a full-time job. I don't anymore. It was a long road to get to here, but now here is really tough. It's definitely, it was easier. Life was easier when I was working a full-time job financially, but I was not getting a lot of traction in my goals. Now that I'm getting a lot more traction in my goals, creatively and otherwise, the money hasn't really caught up. I don't know if it ever will. But you're always kind of tired and you're always under the thumb of something.
Yeah.
This is what I've kind of found. And like right now, I'm under the thumb of I need to think about, like, prioritize revenue as an artist, and it's not that I'm money hungry or whatever. It's just like I have to make sure that generating revenue is part of my regular routine and give that time. It's not whimsical. Oh, whatever, because I will die.
Yeah.
So it's being under that thumb that is a little bit different. Gonna grab one from Cosman here. I skipped over a small one, but we'll go back to it. Sometimes I feel like you have a room full of dead horses you're beating. Maybe having a pile of unfinished things makes you feel beat before you start. This is a good point. If you have too many projects that you've started and haven't finished, and you're constantly looking at all of it like it's something that needs to be done, that's interesting. Do you have?
Yep.
I feel like maybe you have this problem.
Right now, yes. Yes, I do. Dude, I'm so close to getting this album out, but so that's just sitting there, and I feel it.
We
and
got
then-
24 days till Bandcamp Friday.
Okay, it's not that close.
It is that close.
Well, it is, but a lot of it depends on other people.
I
who
gotcha.
are also busy and stuff
Right.
like that. But yeah, so there's that sitting there. There's the EP sitting there. There's all my my personal projects that I want to do, like game stuff and making programs and whatever. And but yeah, it's piling up, and maybe it'll feel like more than it actually is. But
Yeah, I can 100% feel all of this, and my only suggestion from my own personal point of view in terms of maintaining productivity and getting anything done at all, I don't get as much done as a superstar. You see these superstar YouTubers, and it's like, how do they do it all? They have teams. A lot of them have teams.
yeah.
But there are people who are just one person and they do an incredible amount, and I'm not sure how they do it. But the biggest thing, at least for me, I'm not a superstar. I'm just a regular person. Biggest thing for me is what we're just talking about is one thing. What is the most pressing thing that I can put myself to right now? I don't care about anything else. Everything else, like I have a spreadsheet and I have like the week mapped out and all that kind of stuff. So that's very helpful in this regard. But I don't look at the whole spreadsheet. If it's today's Wednesday, I look at the spreadsheet and only what's on Wednesday. And I've learned, this is a big one for me. I'm not sure about yourself, how much you organize this part of your life, or if it's just kind of like take it as it comes. But for me, I know scheduling only one thing a day is the only way to do it. I used to put like a couple things per day. I'm like, no, put one thing, and then I have a legend full of other things that I could do that are not pressing, but they're not on the schedule. But one thing, and if I finish that thing that day and I have the rest of the day to piss off, or I want to take up something, there's stuff I can bring into the schedule. but I'm only committed to one thing every day. And it's not even like finish a song. Like today was get a song ready to finish,
Yeah.
which means like learn all the parts. So getting a song ready to finish, I find guitar parts sound better when you do long takes. I don't know. Everybody does it different. I'm not saying anybody should do it a different way or my way. That's
Yeah.
how I do it. So that means that I practice the whole song a lot before I do final tracking. I learn the whole song and I learn the parts with feel. Like I focus on like, how do the parts need to feel? Whether or not I have good feel or not is a different conversation. I'm not saying I'm good or great or anything. I'm just saying those are the things I focus on. And I spent today just getting ready to do tracking. So that when I sit down to track, I'm not working out the feel when I'm in the tracking phase. I'm not working out chasing the click when I'm in the final tracking phase. The feel and all that stuff is taken care of. We might have to dip out. So Miles, stay there. We're going to go to the
Why?
green room.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh,
you-
well,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Holy jumping.
maybe it's just me. I don't know.
What if we do this? Oh, that's weird. Should we do this? No. How about this?
Whoa. What are our options?
Who's facing where?
I'm kind of facing straight forward.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
I can
straightforward
face
this time.
I can face this way. How about we do this for now?
Yeah, this works.
Well, now there are 3. So Miles, just to catch you up to speed, I don't know if you've caught up with any of it, but we are talking about, as we were talking about in WhatsApp, barriers. The whole thing is I don't feel like it. And usually what's really going on there are some barriers. And I've broken the barriers into sort of 3 categories, which is mental, physical, and creative. And right now we've just come out of the mental section. Anyone who's just joining the stream, this is a great opportunity to kind of catch up with what we're talking about. Mental barriers being a lack of motivation, being clear on what you actually want to do. What is your art direction? What is your goal? Being true to yourself with that goal. It's like, this is something that I actually really want to do. It's not like I'm making it up just to tell myself a story or whatever, because some people do that. I've done that. I have totally done that. Can I accept that the work will not necessarily always be fun? Some of the work will be unfun. And some people have a fantasy of being a pure artist and they get caught up in wanting to do pure creative work, not wanting to do overdubs, not wanting to do all these other things because it's not pure art. I don't know. That's a whole nother episode, I'm sure. And then last one is, can I accept that some of it will be hard? Not only not fun, but also hard.
Right.
So that's what we're coming out of, and we're grabbing comments. I'm going to grab 2 more, and then we're going to move on to the next topic so that we can kind of have a round table about it. But I know you'll be speaking to creativity in a bit, but when I am struggling with creativity, I lose all motivation. I'm knee deep in a lack of creativity right now. We're going to definitely talk about that. That's the last point of today. And yeah. And last little thing, we're going to go back to the comments. I'd rather get through the show and then hang out in the comments. And we can go back through them. But yeah, so for those of you in the show, we'll get to it. Baritone Cult says routine is everything. Absolutely, 100%. Routine really helps. But we're going to get to it. The second point here in I don't feel like it, and you know, what's actually going on? What are the barriers that are contributing to this I don't feel like it? Well, what if it's a physical game? And I'm going to rhyme off the sort of ideas that I have here. You guys can contribute to this list. But what I got is sometimes a physical barrier can be like feeling it's a mental game, but it's about our physical condition, which is I'm not good enough. A lot of people get really swept away with they'll see like 5 shred videos and they're like, I can't shred, I quit. Yeah, and it's a physical
Yep.
thing. And maybe the music you make has nothing to do with shredding. Like the music I make and the music that I love, there are some of it that maybe there's a little bit of a shred element, but like mostly there's nothing shredding in any of the music that I mostly listen to or play. So just an example, but I've gotten caught up in this. This is why I've put it down. You guys both the same?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
I'm going to
sure.
go through these quick and then we're going to talk about them. So not good enough, is a physical thing that we kind of feel like I can't move my hands. Not young enough or not good looking enough. So an example of that for me would be a couple of years ago. There was a big wave of like every era there's a wave of like fashionable young people who are all cool and all that's the nature of the music scene or music scenes, but there are people who are maybe like just slightly on the outside of those scenes who are maybe even making great music who get caught up in this idea of I'm not young and I'm not good looking or a hipster or whatever the hell this idea, and you get caught up in these sort of physical identifiers of that maybe have nothing to do with what you're doing. Maybe you love skull crushing sludge doom and you can be literally like 84 with your SG, your original SG that you bought when you were 13 and it doesn't matter. You don't need to be hip and cool or young or anything.
I think that would actually help.
Yeah, I think so as well. So, but not good enough, not young or good looking enough. Actually physically impaired. This is another big one that people let get in their way. I have a condition called mirror movement. So when I move this hand, it pulls all of the cords in this hand that pulls all of these fingers and vice versa.
Oh, man.
It's called mirror movement. So my hands want to mirror each other. I have control over them because I've been using my hands for 50 years. But there's a lot of tension in it. And if I don't know, can we see this? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to move this hand.
Oh,
I'm going to roll this hand and you're going to see the chords up here. This is a great way to show it. Wait.
Oh, that's
crazy.
trippy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I am not trying to say like, oh, poor me, but people talk about physical, and some people are more physically impaired than others for various reasons. And in some cases, it's very unfortunate. But like I saw a YouTube video recently of a guy who plays guitar with his feet. He has no arms at all. I'm not saying that this is what everybody should do, or I'm not going to say that I understand or whatever, but it's just something to look at maybe motivationally that some people get over incredible physical barriers. I have physical barriers and we're going to talk about it. And then the last one here is physically not enough time. We were just talking about it. Your physical space or, your physical space. Maybe it's in disarray or maybe you don't have a lot of it. We're going to talk about that. So not good enough. What can we say about that? Chris, you first.
Yeah.
Your struggles with feeling not good enough and how it has been a barrier.
Comes up pretty often because like I don't, I'm not practicing guitar a lot. So, I'm not, a lot of this is my fault, I'd say, but I'm not progressing that much. I'd say I'm not, learning sweeping or doing any crazy shredding. I'm not even good at like timing with alternate picking or stuff like that.
Yep.
String jumping, all these things. And then I listen to a lot of like polyphia and
Right. Stuff that makes you feel bad.
stuff that has just inhuman
Yeah.
shredding in it, like Infinite Annihilator, just crazy. Not even like, well, there's some shredding, but like just insane rhythm playing and all this. And I've just kind of learned that you know, you can push yourself a little bit, but if I try to write something that I just can't play, it's not going to be good. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
just don't even worry about it.
And a lot of those people, they had they've dedicated a very, very significant chunk of the, not
Oh, yeah.
only were they probably already, prone in that direction. A lot of those people, they have a little bit of a natural gift,
Mhm.
and then the rest of it is an insane amount of work.
Yeah, like
And,
Chica
and
Nieto,
just that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't want to do that, but you expect to be at that level, that's
Yeah.
I felt this. And the other question I have for you is, how much does your music need any of that? The music that you want to
yeah,
make.
yeah. Um, it depends on the song. Sometimes I want to do, you know, a bit of, like faster deathcore song, but I've kind of realized that I don't need to shred. Like I'm working on something that's super slow, super low. A lot of it's just palm muting, you know, 0 1.
Yeah,
You know, it doesn't need to be anything more complicated, and I like it.
yeah.
So
It
for
sounds
that
brutal
stuff,
and awesome.
yep,
Yeah.
that's the goal. And you know, if I don't need to shred for it, that's fine. That's a win for me, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Miles,
Well,
you
I've certainly.
you can shred,
Well,
but
I mean, I got some mean alternate picking. That's what I got.
yeah,
I've definitely been in scenarios where the visual element of who I am has been a factor in just opportunities. I've been the guy who's been turned down from a band audition because I don't have the look.
oh,
Because the other
Okay.
guys in the band, they have like the swoop hair, and
right.
they're skinny white kids, and I'm like this like kind of like stocky black guy who's like 6'4". So like
You're that
I
tall.
stand out. I'm tall. I'm tall
Yeah.
enough.
Shoot, you're 2
I'm
inches
tall enough that
taller
like
than me.
it's weird because like all my students are like taller than me, so
There's
like they're
nothing that
teenagers.
you have on the internet that sort of indicates that you're this gigantic man.
It helps for a low angle of the camera and to be sitting,
Right.
and no one knows. But yeah, it's rough because like visually I stand out in that aspect of things.
Mhm.
And like I remember there was one band that I tried out for, and the drummer was like, oh well, you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to keep up the choreography. And I'm like, what choreography are you doing? Like besides like crab walking, like what more
Yeah.
do you need to do? But I played with a band that competed on America's Got Talent.
Oh.
And I also kind of went into that with the mindset of thinking about all the other musicians I've seen over the years that have been like the backing band for like Sheryl Crow, a Lady Gaga, someone like that, where like they don't have to fit the look. They're not the show.
Right.
So like I'm not the guy that everyone knows from TV. They're not looking to get an autograph from me. I'm just there to play some power chords.
Yeah. If you're a support player, you just have to know how to not take the spotlight.
That's it. And as far as the influence of the things that I listen to and how it kind of like plays a role in my own creative process, it's not so much the stuff that I listen to that hinders me. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that I'm constantly having to learn stuff for other people. And so my focus is always elsewhere.
Right.
So I'm working on a song, but I have a student that wants to learn a song from August Burns Red. So now I got to learn this song.
Right.
So like my brain is completely occupied by that. And then when I go to work on something of my own, I'm like,
does it take a lot of energy to kind of get back into that thinking?
It's hard to get back into that mindset because like it's a completely different style of playing than what I tend to do normally.
Right.
And different tunings, different things of that nature, time signature changes. And so by the time I go back to work on something of my own, usually when I get out of work, I'm just like, I don't feel like it. And I'm just mentally tapped out.
Yeah. In this case, that sounds like actually physically, musically tapped out.
Mhm.
which is a different thing that I didn't really account for. But this might be the case for other people as well.
Well, yeah, when you're mentally focusing on other things throughout your day and you're doing other things physically, um, like I have a student who's a landscaper,
Mhm.
and when he gets home, when he comes to me for his lessons, his hands hurt, and he's just like,
Yeah.
I don't really want to do this, but like I'm here, so let's try to do something. So like kudos to him for showing up,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's like that's a whole other hurdle you gotta kind of climb over.
Yeah. Yeah. Kudos for sure. Um, Chris, do you have any additional barriers in the physical department? You're definitely young enough, and you're definitely like cool looking enough.
Why, thank you.
By the way, Miles, you're cool looking as well.
I
I don't know. I
try.
don't know why. Like you look so band guy. I don't get it.
It's the black shirts all the time. I think that's
Yeah,
what it is.
black shirts. You got like cool hairstyle, like wicked
thank you.
beard. I don't know.
Yeah.
You look like the band guy. I don't understand why anyone would be like, yeah, you don't look like a band guy. It's so weird.
It's very weird. And it seems like as I get older, more people are like, "Oh, you're so attractive. How could anyone say that you're not an attractive man?" I'm like, it's been a lifetime of being looked over.
Well, coming into your prime.
Yeah.
I'm aging like wine. That's it.
Fine wine. Yeah, I definitely got a lot more attention as I got older. I looked like I was 13 until I was 38. Or
Not the worst
whatever.
thing.
Well, it was weird. I always was like treated as the child.
I've always looked like an adult. So everyone's like, "What should we do?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm in 7th grade. What do you want from me?
Child man. Anyway, Chris, back
Oh,
on
right,
track here.
right.
Not enough time, not enough physical time, not your physical
Yep.
space. During half of the year, you're at school, away at college, and you're in a shared space. That's got to be physically difficult in terms of, not only are you doing school and all this other stuff, but you're in a shared dorm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So like obviously, well, there were limitations, like there were quiet hours.
Right.
But I could get around those, just headphones, I guess. But also, kind of just took me a while for me to get comfortable around my roommate.
Of course.
Because I'm the way what I was doing indicated that I was shredding. I wasn't shredding. But just playing guitar or listening to the same thing like 1,000 times in a row, like what if he doesn't like it? He doesn't like it. He doesn't listen to metal, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
Cleared that hurdle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just worried about annoying people or people walking by and just like,
Yeah.
this guy plays metal.
Yeah. Or this guy plays the same guitar part like 80 times.
This guy can't
What is he
play this
doing?
riff.
And it's just like a naked guitar. What is he doing?
Mhm.
They don't get what's going on.
This guy doesn't change his strings. What is he doing? Yeah.
Oh,
But
we're going to talk about that a little later on.
yeah.
String changing. Dreams do come true. But
Well,
yeah, the not good enough, not young, or good looking enough, or hip enough, whatever you want to call it, actually physically impaired, and not enough time, not enough your physical space or your physical time is impaired. Any actual physical impairments on either of your dockets?
no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In what way?
I mean, a lot of it is kind of self-inflicted from just years of skateboarding and biking.
Right.
But like, I in college was out skating with a group of guys and got a type 3 AC separation in my shoulder.
Oh, I have.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. I had to get surgery done.
Oh, really?
The doctor that works on the jets, he actually did my surgery replace all the ligaments in my shoulder because I basically like ripped my collarbone out of my shoulder.
Wow.
Like I went to the doctor and they were like, "Did you get hit by a car?" And I'm like, "No, I just hit the ground and my arm didn't go with me." But like between that and when I was working as a bouncer, so now I have like boxer's knuckles or whatever they call it, where like your knuckles are collapsing your hand.
Sounds great.
And stuff of that nature. So like there's definitely some limitations in terms of like my fretting hand where like I'll have a click in this hand,
Right.
which is great when I'm trying to do a bunch of like sweepy moves on the neck. And just like other issues with my wrists and stuff like that, because I sleep really stupid. I like sleep like this. I don't know why, but I used to wear braces on my wrists for a long time. And early on when I was making videos for YouTube, because I was doing everything from my phone, I actually gave myself an injury in my thumb.
I heard about this. Yeah, you were talking about
Yeah. And a lot of it I could kind of work around if I just like stretch and make sure I'm drinking water, all the things that I just don't do. And, you know, I became more conscious over the years of like what I was subjecting myself to in terms of like physical things, in terms of work, in terms of activities with skating and biking, where it's like, hey, you're gonna need your hands, like you need them, so don't break them. So I have some limitations now, but I've simply just tried to work around them. I think almost creatively, I've kind of like worked that into how I write and how I play, and utilize those limitations in that sort of way. Basically, taking the same sort of mantra that my art teacher in elementary school told me about, where it's like there aren't any mistakes. Like use your mistakes to make what you're creating more unique.
That's a really we're gonna dig into that in a minute. So hold on to that one, Chris. Think about that one because that's kind of where we're gonna end up.
Okay.
Anything about to cap it off, Miles? Anything about your sort of limitations that actually like feels like a barrier? Like sometimes you're like, oh, damn it! Like I just don't even feel like playing right now because this physical thing is like just too in the way. It doesn't mean that you have to have one. I'm just curious. Do you have something like that?
I mean, in terms of physical things, not so much. A lot of it is just like me being tired and being lazy. A bigger factor tends to be my sort of like space that I have to work within, because I get home in the evening and I'm like, okay, time to work. But then I can't like mic up the speaker cabinet and just start like tearing away while everyone's going to bed. So I'm working around that. And so it's limitations in that regard. But as far as physical ones, aside from just my brain being like, we should just sit on the couch. Like aside from that, not really.
Netflix and chips, tasty.
Yeah, dude, for real.
Yes. So I want to dig into we're just for a minute here, and then we're going to get into some comments. What you were talking about, Miles, taking stock of what you have, like what are the positives as a result of whatever your physical barriers may be. And to kick it off, like in terms of to inspire what we're talking about, for me, I have this thing with my fingers. I have limited mobility, so I just can't play guitar like other people. I just can't. It's not. I have to do it a different way. And for the longest time, like I learned guitar really, really, really slowly. All my friends were playing the whole Metallica Master of Puppets record, and I was still just trying to play a few Metallica rhythm riffs. That's it. I just, for months and months and months and months, years, I just couldn't really play any of it. But most of them quit playing music, and I just went on to be a music guy. And what was interesting is it kind of, because it forced me to be like, well, I can't play like that, so how can I find a way around it? And it kind of gave me a little bit of my own feel, my own kind of sound and feel, which I was unaware of for a very long time. And then once I finally realized it, I'm like, oh shoot, I kind of have a sound. As a result of this thing, I need to dig into it more. And I wish I would have been aware of it earlier. So that's why I want to give a leg up. Like if you do have some kind of a physical barrier, whether it be your actual physical body or your space, time, what have you, how is there a way that you can use it to your advantage? So Chris, we're going to throw it to you. Is there anything like that that you can think of off the top of your head?
Okay. I'll talk a little, and then I gotta go.
Yeah.
But it helps maybe not being able to play so well when you want to write something simple, like keep it simple, stupid, or whatever, that
Right.
acronym. Not overcomplicating or over engineering things.
More thoughtful of the actual composition.
Yeah, if I can't play something
100%.
so
Yeah.
insane to play that it shocks people, I'm gonna need to focus on some other areas, including like mixing and stuff. So I'm pretty happy with what I've been able to do as far as mixing and stuff goes.
Yeah,
But
your stuff sounds awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. But that being said, I think that's it for me tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it supper time?
Yes. So
Well,
thank you
thank
for
you.
having me on, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping on, Chris.
Mhm.
And Miles and I are going to take it from here, and maybe we'll see you next week.
All right, I'll see you guys. Have a
Awesome.
nice night.
Good night. Good night. So, Miles, I think we're going to go to the. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So, Miles, something that maybe seems like a negative. Maybe this is your first time thinking about it. Maybe this is something you've thought about before, but something physical that it might be an advantage. There might be a way to take it as an advantage. So I'm going to just kick one off. Like you're talking about your looks. I'm like, well, you clearly have like a look, and I think you could like use your look to your own musical advantage. Cause I'm like, there's that guy. You're identifiable. You have like definitely like a personality that is obvious. Anything else you can think of?
Well, as far as like physical appearance and stuff like that, I didn't put too much stock in it from early on.
Mhm.
I figure what I'm more concerned about is the musical presentation that I'm putting out into the world.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be able to play good than worry about like how I look while I'm doing it.
Right.
Because it's just a whole other thing to worry about focusing your attention on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about what's in my hair or anything like that. I'm not using specific products to take care of my skin. I wake up and I'm like, all right, let's see what happens today. Like, that's it. And I put more concern in making sure that I have good strings on my guitar and stuff like that.
100%.
But like, I also, from a creative standpoint, in terms of like taking stock of my own limitations musically and whatnot, the same thing that I tell my students is that you come in and you tell me that you want to learn how to play like Tim Henson, you want to learn how to play like Tosin Abasi, you want to learn how to play like Jason Becker, whatever. You can't. You won't sound like them
Like
because
that.
they're always going to have something unique that you don't have because they're individual people. So play like you.
Yeah. 100%.
Like you can learn their
100%.
songs, but like put your own spin on it, put your own feel to it.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why whenever I have students that come in, they want to learn John Mayer tunes. They want to learn how to play Neon or Slow Dance in a Burning Room. They're like, oh, I played it, it doesn't sound right. And I'm like, why doesn't it sound right? Are you playing the right notes? No. Well, I'm playing the right notes, but it doesn't have the same feel. I'm like, yeah, it won't.
Yeah.
It won't. So
you're not John Mayer. You can work on the feel, but no
yeah,
one
to an
ever-
extent, you can get to be like in a place where you're mimicking a John Mayer or someone else to some effect, but
Mhm.
it's never going to be the same.
No.
He's using a different guitar. He's got a different vibrato, different way of going about doing bends,
Yeah.
chording, all that stuff. And so I take that into account with my own stuff, where whenever I have those instances where I'm thinking, I want to write something that's more intricate than what I'm doing, but I don't know how to go about doing it. Just think like, okay, I just got to write what I know how to do.
Yeah. Do what you know.
And there is an element to that that is just simply not knowing how to go about playing the things that other people are playing.
Yeah.
When I had my guitar lesson with Al Joseph, he did this like tapped arpeggio thing that I was like, what is that? And he showed it to me in slow motion, basically. And I was just like, oh. And it just gave me like this new perspective on how to go about putting together phrases where he has repeating notes within the arpeggiated chord that he was tapping out.
Yeah.
And so you don't notice that because just like
It's so
the
fast.
way it's
Yeah.
so fast and our ears don't pick it up.
Yeah.
But having that exposure to it, it made it much more clear with other stuff. So when I'm learning a Polyphia song, I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I get it.
A little bit of economy in there sometimes.
Right. Guys like Paul Gilbert, he's great with that stuff, where he has his mini guitar and he's got 3 of the strings on it tuned to the same note. So all he's doing is just playing the same phrase over 3 strings.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's something more expansive.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that's really the way that piano players go about playing arpeggios across the span of keys on the piano.
Right. Yeah.
They find a triad, find the next register, find the next register. I know my hand's out of the picture here, but exactly.
And just do it really fast, and you can go over top of each other, and you're good.
Exactly.
To go.
Yeah. And so I try to take those factors into account just to keep myself from getting into that sort of feedback loop that eventually leads me to the couch.
Yeah. You're like, I suck.
Anything.
I quit. Guitar goes on eBay. Done.
Yeah.
Netflix, here I come.
Yeah, dude.
No, I feel that. I feel that 100%. The thing you say about kind of looking at something else, someone else's musical output, and being inspired by it, and then just trying to do my thing, but with that influence on top of it, that's kind of how I picked up one of the things you were talking about. And I think that's essentially what you were getting at with one of your examples. That's how I go about everything. I never actually sit down and try and learn anybody's stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't want to play what they played or the way they played it. I just want to get inside the raw concept. And sometimes that's enough to just lead me so far down another road. I love
Definitely.
it. We're going to get into the creative part here on the last bit.
Sure.
Is there anything that you'd like to add to physical barriers? Not good enough, not young or hip enough, not actually physically, or being actually physically impaired, or not having enough time, enough space, these sorts of things. Is there anything you'd like to add in on any of those?
Well, I think a lot of what goes into that topic, it's dependent on what your objectives are creatively, like what you're looking to do with what you're creating. Because if you're trying to like put out a track that is similar to something of like Jason Richardson or something like that, but you can't play that fast,
don't go down that road.
You could either
or maybe just practice a lot.
Yeah, you either don't go down that road, or you dedicate the time to really figure out what it is in the contents of what he's creating that makes his sound what it is.
Yeah.
Like getting tabs to one of his solos and figuring out what he's doing in that, and learning the sort of techniques that go into that stuff so then you can apply it to your own stuff. But otherwise, like you were saying, by nature, I don't gravitate towards trying to learn other people's stuff. And it's weird for me to be a music teacher who has to learn a bunch of stuff for other people. But growing up, all my friends, they were like, oh, did you learn this solo from Master of Puppets? And I'm like, no. I've never even listened to Master of Puppets all the way through. And to sit down and learn the stuff I usually do it by ear, and I end up
Yeah.
learning it wrong.
Yeah.
And so then like the real purist will be like, oh, well, you're not playing that second solo the right way. And I'm like, I'm playing the notes.
Sounds good enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds like it to me. Moving
Sounds
on.
good enough for, you know, the first row fans.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
And if the first row fans are like, sounds good enough, it sounds good enough.
Exactly. But as far as physical limitations, I don't think you should let any of those hold you back. You just have to work around them to your benefit and be really aware of what you can and can't do and what is at the moment in that category of like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And if it has potential to develop into something that you can do.
Yeah. 100%.
Because there's certainly some things that can't be done. Like, I know I'll never be able to play as fast as Jason Richardson that clean. Just won't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it.
And it doesn't, yeah, it's not even important to you. You know,
Right.
that's the other thing, getting clear about like, is that even what I want to do? In our very first sort of block before you came in, we were talking about mental blocks, mental barriers. And the second point was, what do you actually want to do? And is that truly what you want? Like being real, very real about yourself. I want to shred. A lot of people don't want to shred. A lot of people, when they say they want to shred, what they're saying is they want to flex. They want to say something about themselves. There's nothing wrong about that. I'm not digging into it in a negative. But is it actually what you want to do artistically? You know, and for some people, their pursuit of a thing is like, say, with music. A lot of people who are into shredding, they're into the athletics of it. They're into the competitive nature of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is a whole world of that, and there are a lot of people playing in that game. And if that's what you want to do, you should definitely go that road. There's yeah.
You gotta it.
I don't want to get into it.
Time to it.
Yeah, but yeah, be true to yourself in terms of what you want to do. And if you're not good enough to do the thing that you want to do, then maybe it's not the thing you should be doing, or maybe you're just impatient.
Well, I think about it in terms of when I have to track vocals for a project.
Yeah.
Because there's certain vocalists out there that I listen to and I'm like, damn, I want to do that. Like the singer from Leprous.
Oh yeah.
The guy from Tesseract.
Yeah.
Matt Bellamy from Muse. All these guys that have like this really high timbre of voice, but also have an extensive range in terms of what they're doing. Even Corey Taylor, I'm just like, why not me? But it's really just a matter of like, I don't have the same set of vocal cords as those people. So I need to accept that it's not going to be that.
Yeah.
And I need to do my own thing and be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And 13 Flaws brought up a good point about Tony Iommi with the physical limitation of his fingers.
100%.
You know, work around that and you basically create metal.
Yeah. Yeah. They are I would say that Black Sabbath is the beginning of metal. At least the metal that I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arguably there are other contributors, but that's the one that, you know, I think really kind of brought thrash to life.
But yeah, like working around this physical limitation by tuning your guitar lower, using lighter strings, the plastic caps that he was using for his two fingers and stuff like that. Yeah. Like that's all examples of finding a way.
Yeah.
Because like if you're dedicated and determined to make something happen, you'll make it happen.
Yeah. Amazing example, Tony Iommi. Iommi. I always say Naomi.
Naomi.
I just throw an N in there, you know. Naomi Campbell. That is a foxy woman. I just saw a little bit, and she was featured in it. I'm like, who is that? And my girlfriend's like, that's Naomi Campbell. I'm like, whoa, she aged well. She looks amazing.
Yeah, dude.
Not as good as Tony Iommi though. He's like
holding it down.
He's a supermodel. Anyway, we're gonna get into some comments here. Just getting a little weird. Whatchamacallit? RoughRiffs inner chat. So get your eyes on a few comments. Baritone call. Yep. His work around created his style. And this is what 13 Flaws is saying, talking about Tony Iommi.
Mhm.
Tony Iommi. He, the Black Sabbath sound comes in a big way from the nature of that guy's fingers, which he's missing a few pieces of them anyway. And RoughRiffs is saying, or Baritone call. Oh, this is inner chat.
Yeah.
Tricky.
I got one.
Yeah.
So this one from Cosman. To answer that question, there is some instances where artists will have like a strict set of restrictions in terms of how they carry themselves and how they take care of their assets. So like I did sound for Al Di Meola once for a concert that he was doing at his daughter's school, and he kept his hands like in these gloves, and he didn't play his guitar until like sound check. The rest of the time he just sat. And you'll see with a lot of guys that are like virtuoso players, they don't do a lot of like physical stuff with their hands. I think like
don't they
Eddie
have
Van Halen
insurance
was one of the
policies
few.
on them as well?
A lot of people do, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember like Eddie Van Halen being one of those guys that like would just be hacking away at like different pieces of guitars to build a singular guitar. But you don't see other guys doing things like that. They hand off their stuff to someone else, say, fix it, make it sound like me. And then they get it back, they play it, put it back in the case, someone else restrings it for them and all that stuff.
Yeah. I think
it comes from the mindset of like, it's an asset. And so they're trying to protect it.
Right.
The rest of us have to go to work though.
The rest of us have to go and stuff meat into a grinder and make sausage as a side hobby.
And make sure you don't get any fingers in the grinder.
I love that one. 13 Flaws says, metal plate in my picking arm. Weird lump on my middle finger on fret hand from cutting a bit off my finger as a child. Presents its limitations, but just got to find workarounds. Yeah, and sometimes those workarounds may contribute to a different kind of feel, a different kind of style.
I actually sliced my finger open right before my senior recital in school, in college. So now I don't have feeling in my index finger, like on the side.
Ooh.
And going into fretting notes for a long time, I kept flubbing it up because I couldn't feel the strength.
Right.
But with some practice, it's just like when you go to physical therapy after you get injured, like you have to relearn how to do this stuff. Right. But yeah, don't try to open zip ties with a box cutter aimed at your hand.
Words of wisdom. Or take out an insurance policy. Actually, an insurance policy doesn't help get you back to playing guitar, though.
No, it's just another thing to throw money at.
And then next week you will quit for sure. As Cosman outlines here.
I quit.
I quit. And Baritone call. Oh, RoughRiffs, inner chat. Miles looking very young. Yeah, Miles is only 26 years old.
I thank you for the compliment, but that is not true. That is not true at all. Yeah. I'd pay good money to be 26, but
I think we would look good in a band together.
Oh yeah, no, we could hold it down.
We'd both be tall. We would call ourselves the Trees.
Yeah, dude. I'm down with that.
We both are tall. We both have long hair, and and we will sway like trees.
That's the way to be. I like it.
Skull crushing doom.
I'm all about it.
On our bass sixes.
That's trippy with the whole mirror thing that you have. I never would have known because it doesn't come through in terms of how you go about playing, like just from a visual standpoint. Right. Like it doesn't seem like there's any sort of corrective movement being done to
you'll notice a lot of legato. My picked phrases are always slow. And then if there is any faster movement, it's legato.
Interesting.
And that's an easy workaround. Although, with legato, a lot of notes are soft. So,
yeah, right.
I don't do
works into what you do.
Yeah. It definitely has a sound. And I definitely focus on playing slowly, even if the music is fast. So, you've heard of probably my thing Vens. I don't know if you've heard it, but I
Yeah.
have a thing called Vens. It's faster music, but if you listen to it, all of the riffs are slow. It's just the drums that are fast. And that was a really interesting and exciting creative opportunity for me to, because I can't play fast and I didn't want to play fast.
Right.
I'm like, oh, there's a huge opportunity in making fast, grindy music. It's not grind, but it's grindy. That was my motivation. And play slow riffs over fast beats. And it actually is an amazingly fun thing to do.
It works out well.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, because I'm also singing most of the time, I have to take
Yeah.
that into account as well when I'm working on new ideas, because like I can only do but so much at the same time.
Right.
But I definitely try to push myself to get better at multitasking in that sort of regard. So that's something that's within the category of like a limitation that has the potential to improve.
Yeah. To improve or to contribute in a significantly positive way.
Both.
Yeah.
Because you could get better at playing intricate lines while singing something that is contrary to what you're playing,
Right.
over time. But in the meantime, you write stuff that is complementary to both facets of what you're doing, so that you're not standing with your guitar and going and mimicking all the notes that you're playing.
I think you just came up with a new riff right there.
There it is. Do it in drop G. Just
amazing. Reed Engel says, my shoulder surgeries led me to start playing guitar in the first place. Oh, interesting.
Nice.
That's like the ultimate, like, start me up right there. This is going to be the last one for now. We're going to get into the next topic here, Miles, and then we'll hang out in the chat right to the end.
Sure.
But Joe says, I feel as though not having an aesthetic is an aesthetic in itself, and it works for a lot of people. Absolutely. What's interesting is we're going to get into this in the next section, which is creativity. But there's a band called The Cure. Some people don't know them. A lot of people know them, but some people don't. But a band called The Cure. And their whole thing was they came up in the 80s with all the metals, all the metals.
All the metals.
and the
Iron.
the posers. And their whole thing at the very beginning was they're like, we're going to be anti-pose. Like, we're just going to be statues. And that evolved into what it became. Like, they became much more elaborate statues, I suppose, as time went on, much more fashionable of the time. But in the beginning, they were just like complete anti-pose, like just stand there, never move, no bravado, no nothing. And that was like a whole thing. It was the opposite of, of exactly what you're talking about. There was a very pronounced aesthetic at the time, and they're like, we're going to do the opposite of that aesthetic, which isn't nothing. The anti-aesthetic is still an aesthetic.
Absolutely.
And I find it to be the most interesting thing. And we're going to talk a lot about this in this next section. This leads in beautifully. So I thank you, Mr. Joe Carter. But Mr. Miles, I have the notes here. I didn't send the notes over to you. But next section is creative barriers, barriers between us and creativity, or the lack of creativity, etc. For those of you who are just joining the show, I'm noticing the numbers kind of go up and down in terms of viewers. Today's show is all about, I don't feel like it. What is actually going on with I don't feel like it? What's preventing you from actually picking up that guitar? A lot of times it's got to do more with some barriers that are going on, mental barriers, physical barriers, and creative barriers. And arguably you will find sort of crossovers between each of these three sections, but it just seemed convenient, or not convenient, but more palatable, easier to talk about breaking it into these sections. So this last one, we're heading into the last section, creativity, creative barriers. The three things that I kind of came up here with that I think are the most popular. Miles, definitely add to these. Chat, those of you in the chat, add to these, please, if you think of more, because this is about a conversation. But the first thing I got is it doesn't need to be brilliant. I think what a lot of people do, especially if they haven't done anything, A, if you have never written songs, and B, if you haven't written for a while and you're just getting back to it. I think that's a very popular thing with this group. I myself have had a few stints where you as well, Miles, had a stint where you were not doing music for a while. You were just away with it. And there's this pressure to, when we get back to it, that we think we can just like swoop back in and just like pick it up where we left off, and it's going to be amazing.
Just start the engine back up.
Yeah, and a lot of times, sometimes it is amazing for some people, but a lot of times it is not. A lot of times it is like, I'm not good at this anymore. I'm not brilliant anymore.
Right.
Damn it, I used to be brilliant. Well, I'm here to challenge the idea that it doesn't have to be brilliant at all. And especially the first time out. But even if it's the first time after a long time, it doesn't have to be brilliant. First point. Number two, I am fooling myself. Am I an imposter? I'm not good at this. I have no right to be doing this music stuff. Who do I think I am? So that's number two in terms of the creative thing. I don't have any good ideas. Nobody wants to hear my ideas. I have run into that a lot, and it's an interesting barrier. And then the third one I have is I don't have any fresh ideas. I'm not inspired. And I think with that one, what is going on is accepting that all ideas come from somewhere. They don't just come out of your brain. And so having a few hacks to get the sort of ideas started, to get the ball rolling, is a good practice. And we're going to talk about those. But Miles, I'm going to get you to lead it off here. It doesn't have to be brilliant, imposter syndrome, and no ideas at all. You can start with any one of those. What's the first thing?
Well, okay, so after I kind of took a hiatus.
Yeah.
Well,
I just wanted to preface, from your own personal experience of one of these, and then maybe like a hack as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like after I took a bit of a hiatus from writing and playing music for like a year or so, getting back into it, it was this foreign idea of sitting down and writing a song. And I was psyching myself out because I was thinking about it, going into it, the mindset of like, you got to make sure the first lines that you write really pack a punch so that it like really grabs the listener. And so I'm already starting with an anchor on my foot, and it's not serving any benefit to me to do that. And I'd be stressing myself out to the point where I'd just be like, you know what, maybe it's not time for me to get back on this horse just yet. But what I did in terms of getting things started with my current band, the first song that I wrote, I just wrote it. The first verse has no context in relation to the rest of the song. But I wrote it and I had a chorus and I was like, okay, cool. Leave it alone. There was the impulse inside me that was like, no, you gotta reevaluate this. You gotta scrutinize this and erase it, crumble it up, throw it away, forget about it. But I was like, no, the song is done. It's great. It's going to be great because I think it's great. I don't really care what anyone else thinks. At the end of the day, I'm not writing any music necessarily for any individual listener aside from myself. So if I'm happy with it, I did my job. And I think that
and
you've
got it started.
Yeah. It gets the ball rolling. It gets you psyched back up because you completed something and you can say, okay, I can do this. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do another one. And before you know it, you kind of get back into that place where songs are just getting vomited out. You're just like, bah, new song,
Yeah.
new riff, new idea, let's go. And you get a routine built from that as well.
Oh, dude, you're speaking everything that's on my mind. That whole thing of the creative routine, it's such a real thing. And I think some people they quit while they're ahead or whatever, like they quit too early and they never really get there, and they never really get to experience the magic of the more you do, the more you can do. And
Right.
that's a very real thing.
Especially when it comes to creative endeavors. Like, even with more well-established artists, a lot of times when they put out a bad album,
Mhm.
at least objectively based on what people feel about it, it's a lot of just them like straining out these ideas so that like they have room for new ones
Mhm.
and they can go from there. And that's how I look at a lot of songs that I'll write that end up not being something that I'll put out in the world. It's done. I wrote it, but now I can say these ideas belong in this song and they're over here. And
Yeah.
I could go on to something new. It's not something that's just sitting in my mind
Yeah.
and kind of like contaminating every other idea that I have. So,
Idea contamination.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to were ones that I gravitated towards because genre wise, they weren't dead set on sticking to one genre.
Right.
So,
Did you like Mars Volta?
oh my God, dude, you should see my vinyl collection. They put out that box set and everyone's like, I gotta get it. And I'm like, I already got it.
Ah,
I already got it.
how about the Pridgeon album?
Prison album. Which one is that?
Thomas Pridgeon playing drums. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, was that Goliath?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the only one I don't have aside from
It's such a crazy
The
record.
Loust. Like I love that record. No, when it first came out, I mean, I gravitated towards Mars Volta just because Omar Rodriguez is a lefty. So I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
sign me up.
Yeah.
And Francis the Mute was one of those albums that I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy high energy all over the place, but then there's like these soft moments, and dynamically there's so much
And really
stuff going
unique
on.
hooks. Really,
Yeah.
definitely hooks, but very unique ones.
And that's a good thing because it changes your mindset about what can be considered a hook.
Right.
Like, you don't have to have a chorus that fits into that same category of like a Jonas Brothers song.
No.
It could be something else completely. And bands like that I usually gravitate towards.
Yeah.
I think the first CD I ever bought was No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom. And that has so many attributes of like punk, soul.
I'm taking notes here, by the way.
Do it.
You're inspiring so much good stuff.
And there was a local band that I saw called Daily's Gone Wrong. They're still around. They're from the Bronx, but like they were doing ska stuff, but they were also doing hardcore, like breakdowns in the middle of the song. And I'm just like, yep,
Yeah.
count me in. I want more. But like, not restricting yourself to this is the blueprint of what I'm going to do, and this is where my music resides.
Right.
Like, if you're not restricting yourself in that way, it opens up so much more potential for creative endeavors, in my opinion. I know some people, they kind of like, they have a set place where they have a comfort zone in like what they write.
Yeah.
And more power to you. But even with my bands, I put out stuff that like, yeah, this song's gonna be all acoustic. There's no yelling on it, there's no drums, and if you like it, cool. If you don't, I don't really care. I liked it.
And the one thing about all of that is that I've found anyway is you can have an overriding art direction or an overall sort of creative what do you call it, like sort of guidelines that you work within.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you don't have an incredible amount of diversity within those guidelines. And one of the things is if you can find where all of that meets up, you end up with some guidelines that ties everything together. So you always have a strong identity, like Mars Volta. Mars Volta always sounds like Mars Volta, but they always do something completely different. but yeah, you have this art direction and you have these sort of conditions or whatever that hold things together. But then you within that, there's a lot of room to move, and you can move anywhere you want. I love that idea. Oh,
Yeah, man. Now, the
yeah.
second point, imposter.
yeah.
You just elaborate on that again, just so I have a better idea.
So the
of-
imposter syndrome, as it relates to being a creative, is there are some people that they're like, they feel like it's the place for special people, for chosen people, for important people. And I think where you see it the most is people who have their attention for a long time on celebrities and whatnot. Like if you want to be an actor and you're just all you're doing is watching A-list movies and paying attention to A-list actors, you're like, I can never be them. I can never be Tom Cruise or Wesley Snipes or whatever. I don't know whoever, whatever. I don't really watch movies that much, but popular. I can't be really what they're saying is I can't be popular.
I got you.
But they confuse it for I'm not special like those people. What right do I have? I can't do this. I'm out of here.
Okay.
Show me the door.
I get it. No, so like in a way there is sort of a special population of people, but it's not special in the sense that like they're unique from you or I in any sort of way. It's just a matter of like, are you willing to dedicate the time and effort that goes into achieving what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
I tell my students all the time, especially the ones that were at my previous job and now they're kind of like out on their own, they're starting their own bands and stuff, and they're realizing that like you got to work. It's a lot of work to get people to see you, to get seen somewhere, selling tickets for shows, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, it comes with the territory. And at this point in society, at this point, really, like it's so much easier in ways because you can post up a song on Spotify that anyone can find. It's just a matter of them coming about finding it or you promoting it and letting them know that it's there, rather than paying someone to burn a bunch of CDs for you and only everyone that's kind of like in your general vicinity has the potential to get a copy of it. And then maybe somewhere down the line, if you go and travel out on tour or something, like does it get to a larger audience?
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just like understanding what kind of work goes into what you want to achieve, what kind of goals you're trying to accomplish, and dedicating the time to it.
Yeah. We have talked, I don't know if you were on that episode. I can't remember which one exactly it was, but we've talked a lot about sort of the factors that go into, some of these mega stars. There is a certain amount of, kind of cut out for it. Some people are just not have a certain amount of natural talent, and a certain amount of certain things that are right for the time. So some of it is timing, some of it is luck within the timing, and then a lot of it is constantly showing up and working really serious and really hard on your craft. And also I think that insightfulness, it doesn't get talked about enough, but the self-work. It seems the people who are monstrously successful have done a lot of self-work and continue to do it in terms of like, who am I in this world? And what is the relationship of that person in this world? And, all of that stuff. There's a lot. Sorry.
I think that at the root of it, a lot of it is a matter of just kind of like tuning out the outside influences, at least for me, where I'm at that age now where everyone else that was like, oh, music's my life, bro, is now working at the hardware store or they're working,
which is fine, by the way,
which is cool.
Yeah, we're not cutting those people down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I know for me, that's not something that I want to do. Yeah. And so you can kind of feel it with certain things. I think most people are capable of being able to say, no, I don't want to do that. That's definitely not something that I want to do.
Yeah.
And
Or also, I do want to do that, but I want to do this, and this is still important to me.
right.
You
Right.
know, like
And
I
so
want to
in that
do
case, you
music for
find
fun.
ways, yeah, in that case, you find ways to make the time to dedicate to that. And I have a lot of friends that are in that category as well, where like they all have families, they all have jobs, but like every Thursday night, they meet up with their buddies, they go down to the basement, they jam through some songs, and then they'll play a show like every other month. And that's good enough.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because like one thing about this world is whether you do something creative for as a job or not doesn't really matter. But I think having some kind of creative endeavor, especially a creative endeavor that has a social component to it, that connects you with a community of other
Sure.
people who are interested in self-expression. And, you know, music's an interesting one because there's a physicality to it, physical involvement, as well as sort of this mental and this social element. There's a whole bunch of things involved in it that are really, really good for the psyche, for mental health.
Right.
And also great for just expanding your thinking, expanding your mental horizons, your emotional horizons, becoming more emotionally mature and all that kind of stuff. Like all of that stuff kind of comes with the music game. Not at, you know, there is some music that it's just all about being really tough and beat downs and stuff.
I was in
But
one of
you
those
know,
bands.
that's a very small slice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like obviously there's certain attributes of different genres that kind of you have to change your perspective on them as you get older. Like for me, if I was still playing in a hardcore band, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be that happy because
Right.
it's physically demanding and the environment is not one that I'm necessarily comfortable in anymore, where like I have all my pedals up against the front of my speaker cab so that no one steps on them and I don't get pushed over by someone who's like
Yeah.
in the pit and like gets pushed out, you know, all that stuff. I'm the guy who's like, if the concert has seats, I'll go. But if it's standing, if it's an all-day festival, I'm probably not going to go.
Yeah. I love club shows. Are there a lot of, there must be, like New Jersey, there's clubs.
We have Starland Ballroom. Glassjaw's coming through soon because they're
yes.
doing their like 10-year anniversary, 20 years. Yeah. 20
Glassjaw
years.
was one of the first or one of the last bigger shows that I saw before the pandemic.
Nice.
Because they did that tour like probably about 6 months before the pandemic.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I saw them on that tour. It was amazing.
I think that was.
I'm not even a
anniversary
huge Glassjaw fan, but that New Materials record I thought was such a good record.
It was an interesting record.
Oh, so artsy and awesome.
They're one of those bands that like, again, I go back to them because they're always doing something different.
Yeah.
Like with Coloring Book, how it's a baritone guitar, bass, everything tuned to B, and like then the last track is just keyboards and some drums. But like it's so cool and just different from what other fans of their first records would think to expect from them.
Yeah.
And
I think
I don't know. I might go see them.
Mostly they tend to achieve in their new sounds something that most of their fans can sink their teeth into. What I found with Glassjaw, like
Yes,
they don't, even though they keep changing, they don't seem to push their fans away.
they don't stray too far away
Yeah.
from the stuff that everyone's familiar with, and I think that's just kind of like involuntary from their point of
Right.
view.
They have an
creatively.
aesthetic, I guess,
Exactly.
that holds it all together, similar to what we were talking about with Mars Volta.
Right.
But yeah, what we were talking about here, creativity. It doesn't have to be brilliant. Imposter syndrome,
And then the
no,
other one
no
was
fresh
no
ideas.
fresh ideas.
So no fresh ideas. All ideas come from somewhere. So I've struggled with this. You have, I'm sure every single person in the feed has struggled with this. I have no ideas, no fresh ideas, no ideas at all. Give me one hack that you maybe it's your go-to, or maybe it's the one that you pull out of your back pocket when you really need it.
So one of the ways that I go about just trying to like work out ideas, it's a couple steps. I actually did like a whole video about this. But
while you're talking, I'm going to go link it.
it's the one where it's like orange thumbnail and I have like hot
I will
sauce.
find it.
Yeah.
You tell us about it. I'm going to get it.
But basically the idea is like to get yourself started, pick a key to start like writing in. So it doesn't have to be specifically major or minor, but like pick a major or minor key. Google search if you don't know what the individual notes that make up that key are, and go with those notes and just start with single notes, not even chords, but like trying to put them in an order where it sounds like something that could potentially be, if anything, a bass line, or you can start building up a chord progression from that. And then on top of that step, the next thing I would do is like take that chord progression that I came up with from the steps of the scale and try to figure out ways to dress up the chords. Maybe have the last chord before it goes back to the first starting chord be a dominant 7, something like that, just to add some extra flavor to it and give it some unique character. But in addition to that, try to break down the chords into triads so that you're not just strumming them, but you're like playing different patterns. And even that, you could come up with a melodic idea
for those who do not understand triads. What Miles is saying is arpeggiate the chords. Yes. Play the individual notes in the chords, and add other things. Yeah. Sorry, Miles. I had to like. There are quite a few folks.
Oh no, I get it. I've been so inundated with music stuff all day. I don't know how to turn it off. So yeah, but like basically taking the basic components that make up a song, taking those, dissecting them, and seeing if you can create something different from them.
Yeah, from the same materials.
Right. Because like if you're working with power chords, you don't have to play them both notes at the same time. Like you can do the root and the fifth and do them one at a time. Yeah. And before you know it, you'll have a Kings of Leon song. Yeah. Finally. And but like going about it in that way definitely is a good way to spark inspiration, get motivated to be like, okay, what else can I do? And before you know it, you can find yourself with a really unique sounding creation that you're like, I didn't know I had that in me.
Right. I 100% agree. I think the essence of it is just start with something, get something down. B, break it down into its simplest parts so that you know what you're working with. So if you have 3 chords, well, those 3 chords, let's say they're all double stops. So a double stop is a 2-note chord. It's not a chord. It's a double stop. But let's say you have 3 power chords. Well, you have 6 notes. How can you juggle those 6 notes? Like break it down into the smallest components, and then you can play with things like timing and phrasing. Phrasing means how you play the notes over time. Mm-hmm. How you slide with them, how you bend them, how you move from one to the next. That is a phrase. So yeah, there's actually a lot that you have to work with very simple things. 3 chords, 6 notes, infinite number of phrasings, and an infinite number of ways you can play with it in time. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot to dig into there. The other thing for fresh ideas, we've already talked about it. I'm going to bring it back, which is do the opposite. And I employ this idea a lot. So let's say it's a genre of music, and I look at the things that make the genre of music. What can this genre of music exist with and without. So let's say it's death metal. What makes death metal? Well, if we keep blast beats and double kicks, we've got death metal. We got a lot of what death metal is, but we can change a lot of other stuff and maybe do the complete opposite with it. You know, the way that the guitars are played. Maybe we can do clean stuff over those double kicks and blast beats. Maybe we can, like I had already shared, I do slow things over fast beats. That's a thing I do. I'm really into it. Well, you could do that with death metal. And it could still sound like death metal, but you could have a whole new sound by changing a few things, the complete opposite of what it traditionally is. We see this with bands like Gorguts and Sunless, and there's a bunch of death metal bands that have definitely turned death metal on its side, on its head, and we can find this in every genre.
Right.
But the other thing I think is pick 3 motivations, and that, to give an example, is okay, death metal, seeing as we're on that, death metal kind of ferocity, a soundtracky, sprawling soundtracky kind of soundscape, and, you know, planetary, solar systemic girth, massiveness, you know, and try and incorporate those 3 things into a musical form. Or the opposite of girth, like tiny tin can. We're going to do death metal and soundtracky, but it's going to be reframed into Americana. I don't know.
I like it.
But pick 3 things that can kind of inform the texture, inform the flavor, inform the overall feelings, the way that you're gonna are you gonna do a lot of bending on the same notes, or are you gonna play a lot of notes? All of these things can really, really, really help get the creativity going. But what Miles is saying is, do something. You said earlier, when you came back from taking a break from music, you just wrote a song. You're like, it's not my greatest work, but you just committed to it. And I think that's the key right there, is do something. It doesn't need to be brilliant, which is the first point. It definitely doesn't need to be brilliant. You just got to get the ball rolling. And if you can see it through, the next thing will be better. And because everything you do informs the next thing you do.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a well put together song that's like 7 minutes or something like that. You can put together something that's like 1.5 minutes and it's done. It's got some layers to it. You've put,
and the Bunn will really like it because he likes short songs.
There you go. And it's just a matter of just like getting started, because it's so easy to stay in that place of like planning and thinking about what could go wrong if you get started, rather than just doing it.
Yeah.
I think about it in terms of like when I was growing up and I was learning how to like drop in on a skateboard on a quarter pipe, where I'd be getting to the top of the quarter pipe and I'd be thinking about all the different ways I could break bones in my body if I fall. But then everyone around me is like, you just got to do it. You got to lean forward, stay over your board, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
It might not be successful, but you don't know until you try.
Yes.
That's it.
The skateboarding analogy is so good because you eat a lot of shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
I have dislocated this shoulder so many times. Today I was cramming on getting some material together, and this hand was numb because I have all of this nerve damage, and it just goes phantom, like it'll just randomly go numb.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like not a good vibe to be cramming on tunes and with a numb hand. Like, it sucks so much.
Well, I thanks to skateboarding, I messed up my jaw a couple of years back, and so now if I'm very tired, I have to be mindful about how wide I'm opening my mouth to yawn because it can get stuck open.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Ooh.
the way your jaw sits in your skull, there's like these two hooks,
Yeah, I know it.
and I can open my mouth wide enough where the hooks will just kind of like fall out and then just kind of like sit in front of the ports, I guess if you will.
Yeah. Is that the
And
mandibles?
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And so if I'm like really tired,
Yeah.
I'll go to bed, but I'll yawn and then I have to sit up because I yawned and my mouth got stuck open. I know how to fix it myself now, but early on it was like it was a trip from the dentist, leaving that office to go to another office so that I could see someone who could actually put my jaw back in place. And so that's frustrating.
Yeah,
But that's
scary.
why I always have energy drinks.
Right. No yawning.
Yeah, dude. It's ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, just overall, regardless of any physical ailments or whatever limitations, you just got to find ways to work around them. Like, especially when it comes to me and singing, where I have to be thoughtful about that as well.
Yeah.
Because any vocal coach would be like,
Right.
if you want to put more projection into your voice, you got to open your mouth wider.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Ah!
I can't really do that. And so you have to think about that stuff as well.
Or you could do like the Bunn again. Go instrumental, Miles.
I
You
haven't
don't.
thought
You
about it.
don't. You don't sell as many records.
That's okay. That's okay. It's not the main objective. I think that for me, it's more about just being creative.
Mhm.
Like if I can make a profit of some sort, cool.
Yeah.
But I go into what I'm doing really with the root objective of being like, I want to make music that I like.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the one guy who's like getting all the plays for my band on Spotify because I'm just like listening to my songs and I'm like critiquing them, thinking like I could sing better. I could do better than that. Or I'm
Yeah.
remembering like, oh yeah, I went to the studio with a sore throat that day because we had time booked that day.
Yeah.
And that's why I sound
Committed.
that way. Yeah. It's all about just like biting the bullet and going with it no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. I am 100% on board with that. We're gonna take it to the comments here, Miles.
Let's do it.
And we're gonna take it to the comments all the way out. I think. And just to wrap that one up, so there are three sort of modules here: mental, physical, and creative barriers. In the last one that we just talked about, creative barriers, number one, doesn't need to be brilliant. Number two, imposter syndrome. Don't worry about what your heroes are doing. It doesn't matter. Like you are, it's totally fine for you to make stuff.
Yeah. And it's going to be different.
Yeah, and if it sucks the first time out, that's okay because most people suck the first time out. On occasion, someone is brilliant, but it's super
I tell
rare.
all my students that are just getting into songwriting, like, write the first song.
Yeah.
It's going to suck. You're going to hate it. And then
Yeah.
from there, you write another one.
100%.
That's it.
And in terms of no fresh ideas, I have no ideas. I have no good ideas. I have no fresh ideas, whatever. Same thing. Getting started leads to more. And pick some targets. And picking 3 targets as opposed to 1 generally leads to more creative end results. So 3 bands that you like that are not in the same genre. And elements that that can motivate your playing. You don't even have to do it the same way they do, as long as it just sort of motivates your fingers to move on the fretboard or whatever instrument you're playing.
And in terms of subject matter, like if you're thinking about more of like topical aspect of things,
Yep.
For me, I've found inspiration from different things. Like I'll go to the train station near my house and I'll just sit outside and I'll watch people and like take notes. I'll try to write up a storyline about individual people that I see just based on what they're doing. I probably look like a creep, but like it's a good way to figure things out and see if there's
Profiler.
anything worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. Secretly in the FBI.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just taking notes on individuals.
Don't mind me.
But we
CIA.
used to do that when I was in college because where my school was, we were across from the corporate building for PepsiCo, people that make Pepsi. And they have this weird structure garden in their like backyard where they have these kinetic energy sculptures that move and stuff like that. And so my professor was like, we're going to go sit in the garden. We're going to just take in your surroundings and see what comes from it, like what you can write based on what you see. It doesn't have to be lyrical ideas necessarily, but like what musically does this all kind of like make you gravitate towards?
Yeah.
And it's a good way to just kind of like take yourself out of that place of waiting for ideas to just spontaneously erupt in your brain.
Yeah. The all of the ideas are already there. It's just it's our job as an artist to organize them. You know, all of the notes of the guitar or any instrument are already there. We just need to order them in some way that is interesting to us, that amuses us. And we're going to grab some comments to start getting your eyes on some comments. Oh, sorry.
That's a good one.
13 Flaws. It is a good one, but I meant to click this one. We'll go back to 13 Flaws in a second. I definitely feel like Reed Angle says, I definitely feel like these 3 overall points being made tonight are not mutually exclusive. And absolutely, you're right.
Yeah.
The whole idea with tonight's show is to get inside of the idea of the things that how we think, and how we stop ourselves, or how we slow ourselves down, or how we beat ourselves up. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we don't do things, or why we do the wrong things. Wrong, just not kind of being true to like why are we even doing this at all? So yeah, everything that we've talked about this evening feeds, like they're all parts of the same thing, coming from different perspectives. And the whole idea is, as a whole, for all of us to sort of think about how we think about these things, so that maybe we can put a more confident foot down tomorrow, or after this show, or right now. It's like, I'm going to put my foot down in front of this other foot and grab that guitar and play whatever.
Yeah, dude.
So that's what's going on there. And we'll go back to this one. It's great to go back to those first songs to reaffirm that you're actually progressing. Miles, talk about it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, like I'll revisit the songs that I wrote in high school and like leading into college. And like there's attributes of them that I like because I can hear how I was approaching the guitar in a different manner in terms of like my attack with my pick and my playing in general. But I can also hear like the limitations in my playing and how it's just kind of like working around it and just being like, yeah, I can't sweep pick, but I'm just going to play alternating through these arpeggios. And I'm going to try to do it as fast as I can. And rhythmically, it's going to be something different than what I wanted, but it'll be there because I put it there. And it serves as inspiration in itself because it gives you a better perspective on what you can do. And so, it's definitely worthwhile to write those first songs and then continue forward from there and then revisit the stuff from before, because like it all plays a role in what you're present day doing. And yeah. No, absolutely. It's great to do that. Plus, it just makes you feel better if like all your early work sucked, because like now you're writing stuff that's like way better, and you're like, what was I thinking? Who was that? Who was that dude?
It's funny. It's like this topic. Like, of course, I immediately start going back through in my head about all of these things, like. Yeah, my first stuff. And what's interesting about your first stuff is sometimes it's your first stuff of a new project that is somewhat recent.
Mm-hmm.
I have a project that I kind of started on about 2 years ago, I guess, and I haven't done a ton with it. But the first thing from it, the project's called Wetlands. But the first thing that I did as Wetlands, I think it's terrible. Some people like it, but I think it's unbelievably terrible.
Usually the stuff you don't like is the stuff that everyone else loves.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Yeah. Don't even get me started.
So I'm going back through the comments here. You can get so comfortable, it becomes a hindrance and you begin to actually feel uncomfortable with it.
It's true, because for me personally, I went through a phase where I was constantly writing. I was writing new stuff and I had to have new stuff written every week. And so it became more of this sort of like factory conveyor belt way of going about doing things, where there was a routine to it and I knew what to do in terms of like putting together a song structure. But with that, I got really comfortable in my mind and saying like, I can write some new songs when I want to. I don't need to like keep doing it. But then enough time goes by where you don't keep doing that same routine and you're not as well equipped to do what you're trying to do. It's the same thing as like if you're going to the gym for years and years and you're in good shape and everything, and then you stop going because you're like, I'm as strong as I need to be. I'm good. And then one day,
super fat.
yeah, one day you're getting up from the couch and you're just like trying to heave yourself forward over your gut.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, keeping yourself going. Sean Heath just got up. Thanks for waking me up. I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're doing great as well, Mr. Sean Heath.
Man.
He's in Germany.
Yes.
And I recently found out, he just did a video. Recently found out, like, Sean Heath had a heart attack a couple years ago.
Yeah. You wouldn't know because he's just like out riding a bike, shooting a video, like talking casually on his bike. If it was me, I'd be like, so.
Yeah. And he's
take
like,
care of yourself.
yeah, and he looks like he's an in shape guy, but
Yeah. I mean,
there's a
I'm
whole
in
story
shape.
to it. Yeah.
I'm not in shape, but yeah, he's in shape. So
And Sean Heath also says, I have no ideas has been my default belief for years. And
well, the thing about
this
that is if you commit to that mentality and that mindset, you'll be right.
You stole it right out from under me. 100%. If especially that word belief, very tricky one right there. If it is in fact your belief, it will be your reality. I'm not a big believer by per se of anything in the world, but I do feel like it's in line with adoption. That which you have adopted as something in your core, your chosen path. It is your chosen path, and it will unfold before you.
Absolutely.
So be careful there, folks, because I've definitely found this is where we were talking about earlier, not that long ago, about self-reflection and doing the inner work, doing the self work. It's like, who am I? What do I believe? What do I think I know? Who do I think I am? How do I relate to the world? All those questions, hard ones to ask, but I think they really help in these ways. And 13 Flaws says, or Electric Meat Puppet, sorry, it's harder to deliberately restrict yourself than to use everything at your disposal. And this is a question. And I would say for me, restriction is my number one friend in terms of creativity. I work with really, really hard restrictions, and I feel like really hard restrictions give me the greatest amount of creative options. And in mathematics, I've talked about this before, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but in mathematics, there's an experiment that was done where they have a limited number of input rules, and they keep the input rules running into the system. Three different variables that keep running into the system, and it evolves into this vast expanse, infinite expanse of expression. I'm not going to get too far into it, but
I think you did.
There's way more to it, like to explain it. If you look up Mathematica, and the guy behind Mathematica did this experiment, the rules of life or whatever.
I feel like that'll hurt my brain if I look into it.
Yeah. But it's just, a great example of you don't need very much to end up with a lot.
Well, I think that it kind of goes both ways because, like, having limited variables at your disposal in terms of trying to accomplish the goal that you're setting out to accomplish, it allows you to stay focused on what you're doing compared to, like, which we've talked about before in other episodes about, like, having too much stuff, having too many things available to you.
It's
Because I
crazy.
definitely sit down and I'm like, maybe I'll write something on my baritone today. Or maybe I'll do something on the bass. Maybe I'll do something in drop D. Maybe I'll do something in drop B. And it's like, no, just
Pick a target.
grab a guitar and just play. Just do it. Stop worrying about everything else.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely get caught up in, like, being overwhelmed by having too many options.
Yeah. That's something that I'm experiencing right now. I'm learning Fruity Loops, and it's not so much like a creative issue like FL Studio. I want to get into FL Studio because it's a great quick road to making electronic music.
Okay.
And I just want to fool around with it. But one of the things about FL Studio is I'm like, I need to figure out, like, what am I going to use? Because there's so much that I could use in it. So I need a synth. I need a synth for melody lines. I need a synth for bass lines, and I need a drum beat. And that's all I'm focusing on. There is so much to learn in Fruity Loops, but I need to pick 3 things to get going with, and then I can add things into it. But
that's basically where I'm at with Reason.
Right.
Because there's so much flexibility in terms of all the parameters that can be adjusted.
Well, they're very similar actually in terms of what they both offer.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot.
It's infinite.
Yeah, dude.
Development of a Void is popping in to say hi. Been inactive for a while. Hope you all been well. I hope you are as well. This was a little bit ago, but not sure if you're still in with us, Development of a Void, but I hope you are well. Waiting for some more videos. No pressure, but
apparently he put out a video.
Oh, he did recently?
Or maybe everyone's just seeing it now.
Loved the last ID vid. The last vid, I don't know. Maybe
I'll have to look.
I'll have to catch up with it. Yeah, because we see this right here. Hey, DOA. Love the latest ID vid. I'll go check it out. Scrolling along here. This is a good one. Reed Engel is saying, I keep ending up with 8 minutes of music before I get to the actual point I was trying to make.
That's a good thing.
The never-ending intro.
That's a good position to be in, though, because, like, now you can go in and refine that and chop off the parts that aren't really contributing to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, you can extract parts out of all of that. Yeah.
Or repurpose parts of it for other parts later on.
100%. I don't think that's a bad place to be at all.
Completely void of anything, Better than just sitting there staring at a notebook being like, come on.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Joe Carter's got a good one here. It can help to figure out what your crutches are. What are the things you fall back on? And then do the total opposite. 100%. I'm so into that. I have to make things diatonic because I feel like I have to. So I make things chromatic. Yeah. I am a huge diatonic guy. But I'm a huge diatonic guy because everyone around me forever that I ever played music with before just used whatever notes. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know anyone who plays 100% in that I've ever played music with. So I'm just going to play 100% in. And lo and behold, I ended up with a different sound than most people.
Yeah, dude.
But yes, exactly the opposite of what you're talking about. But like the opposite, like that's how I ended up there. So it works. Do you got one there, Mr. Miles? You're searching. I can tell you're searching.
I'm searching, but there's a lot of like in chat stuff. So.
I think we already hit this one. Yes, it's good to use theory as guidelines. Just can't get locked into that note isn't in the scale, so I can't play. No, we didn't hit this one, but it is what we're talking about. Yes, absolutely. And a friend of mine, actually, Matt Fong, he has a project called Blasternaut and another one called, oh my God, I've mastered two of his records. I'm blanking on it so bad. Future Machines.
That means they were good.
It's
if
called
you don't remember
it's
them.
called Future Machines. Yeah. Oh, they're really good. But when he first started working on all this stuff, he went to jazz school, and he's a hot player, and all of his friends are hot players. He plays with all these like beastly dudes, of course, jazz school guys. And he decided, he's like, I'm not going to do this jazz stuff anymore. I want to just do my own thing, like kind of math rock, but I just want to play any note. I don't care about anything. I just want every note is available. So he just started doing this thing where it's like wherever the hand ends up.
Cool.
Like, and strangely, like he was able to organize it so it sounds like it makes sense, but it actually makes zero sense.
That's awesome.
Like if you try to pick it apart, you're like, no, it doesn't make any sense. But
like when I was in school, one of the things that I found to be a bit of a restriction on my creativity in general was the fact that I was learning so much about theory and just the arrangement of everything. So then I'd be sitting down to write something and I'd start second guessing my my moves. Like, oh, is this interval going to be complementary to the next chord after that? Oh, well, maybe I should resolve it with a minor 4, stuff like that. And it's like, it's good to have theory awareness, but
I think especially with resolution.
Sure.
Understanding resolution, like direction of harmony, direction of melody and harmony.
Well, I think most of the people
very
that are
helpful
here, I think most of them like have an idea of what sounds good, what they know is going to be like, sounds good. Yeah. And I think that sort of like gut judgment on it is so much more substantial than trying to do it from a theoretical standpoint. I mean, some people,
if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good, no matter how theoretically correct it is.
Yeah, and maybe you want it to not feel good. Maybe you're going for something that's like really uncomfortable,
which is a great point.
Yeah.
Constant tension. The reason I bring it up is because let's say the goal is constant tension. If you understand resolution and harmony, like just basic stuff, then you're able to hold on to that. You're able to fully explore it. Like what makes something never resolve? What makes something constant tension? Diminished, number one.
Yes. You go augmented too.
Yeah. But having some understanding of those things is really helpful. But yes, what you're saying, like getting trapped in it, and also where was the comment? 13 flaws. It's good to use the theory as guidelines, which is what I'm talking about. Just getting locked into it. That note isn't in the scale. All these sorts of things. Yeah. Being able to throw it out.
Framework.
Yeah. Being able to throw it out, and like you're saying, Miles, focus on the feel and refer back to the theory.
Mm-hmm. I like this one.
Yeah, we're all so hard on ourselves. We're like a bunch of 8-year-olds. Most of us never actually grow up. We're just, for some reason, able to take on a little more responsibility.
I just have more facial hair now. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm still basically a toddler.
Bearded 8-year-old.
Yeah, dude. Still just as immature.
Yeah. Man. It's funny. There's a documentary series, I think I've talked about it already, that came out in the last month or so that I'm in a lot. And it's about skateboarding. And I see like my youthful self. And I miss my, not 8 years old, but I miss my teen self. I miss what my teen self was motivated by. It's not that different anymore, or yet, or whatever. It's not that different at this point in time, but it's different enough that it's like, ooh, I feel it.
Well, like getting back to what we were saying before about, oh crap, did I lose it? So, okay. So revisiting old material.
Yeah.
and kind of like using that as a way of letting yourself know that you're progressing and that you're making progress in terms of how you're going with all your works and everything. Um, when I think back to the music that I was writing when I was like 13, 14,
Hmm.
I was definitely motivated by different things, but with that motivation, while I was like able to just kind of like constantly just throw out songs over and over again, just like new song, guys. When we meet up on Saturday, I got a new song. The songs also were like being presented in a way that was literally from the mind of a 13-year-old,
Yeah.
where it's just like, I'm mad because you suck, and this is how I'm going to tell you that you suck in this song, you know. And so it wasn't well
The
thought
best.
out. Yeah. But I also remember going through a period of time where I felt like sort of an imposter syndrome sort of thing, where it's like, things are good in my life now. Maybe I can't write music anymore.
Right.
Maybe
I've
I'm
heard
not
this a
upset
lot
anymore.
from people.
Yeah.
I've
And
never,
I've seen it happen.
yeah, I've never written music from a point of view of distress or distraught. I definitely
That's all
have
me.
have done commentary on in terms of the world. Like, okay, the world, there's disruption in the world, and we'll do things from the motivation of like what's going on with that, but never from a sort of like it sucks kind of point of view.
The
But
only reason why I'm a nice guy is because I get all my anger out in my songs.
right, you have a significant outlet.
It's my pillow to scream into. It works out.
It's like so true. Yeah, crazy. But yeah, you're a totally stoked dude, and you still write awesome, music that you're like super stoked on. But there was a transition where maybe you were second guessing it.
Yeah, because it's like, what do I write about now? Like how happy I am that I have like 2 healthy kids and a full-time job.
Damn
No one wants
right.
to hear that.
Yeah,
Just
dad
a
rock.
bunch of breakdowns.
Dad
Feels
rock
big on
breakdown.
time.
What would dad rock breakdowns be? Dad downs?
Yeah, something like that. It would sound something like that one "A Day to Remember" song, "Downfall of Us All," where they start off the song like break down in a major key. But
Lots of double kicks.
oh yeah, you got to do it. It's got to be upbeat and talking about how like you built the shed. You didn't burn the steaks on the grill at the barbecue. Like
That grill is a real thing. I
It
grow
is.
mushrooms myself. I'm a mushroom griller.
okay.
Designer mushrooms.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You ever hear of that shiitake?
I've heard of shiitake mushroom.
Let's talk about that shiitake.
I absolutely hate mushrooms. And yeah, I'm sorry. I'm that guy.
It's fine. It's fine. We can clash. You can have the right side of the grill. I'll have the left side. You can have your
Deal.
blood on the right, and fungus on the left.
Are you vegan or vegetarian?
No, I was vegan for 11 years. And then one day, it was a New Year's Eve, quite a few years, like probably 15 years ago now, strangely. I was 31 at the time, 31 or 32. But it was New Year's Eve. My partner at the time, she's like, what are we going to do for New Year's Eve? I don't want to go out. I'm like, I don't want to go out either. She's like, can we? There was still renting movies. Like you go to the movie store.
Oh, man.
Go to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to rent some movies and I want pizza. And she was vegetarian as well. And she was vegetarian. I was vegan. She's like, but we always got like a vegan pizza when we did get pizza. She's like, I want pizza. I'm like, sweet. She's like, but I want a real pizza. I'm like, oh damn. I'm like,
I've thought about it.
yeah. And at this point, I hadn't had any dairy for super long time. And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. And we did it, and it was pretty amazing. And ever since, I've been kind of like, not. I live mostly vegan, but but I'm not officially vegan,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, the old drummer in my band, when I went to visit him out in Nevada, he's vegan. So we're staying with him,
How
and
did we
he's
get
like,
on the by the way?
I just asked. I mean, because like it's something I've thought about, like maybe trying,
Yeah,
just do something different.
It's pretty easy now, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot more options.
Yeah, it's really, really easy. And it's kind of like a fun project. You know, there's so many people who got really creative with it that you really, in a lot of ways, some of the food is so much more incredible than
Yeah.
everything else. Like,
Yeah, he made me some stuff that I'm like, you sure there's no meat in this? And he's like,
yeah,
uh-huh.
it's crazy. But yeah, try it out. I think the key is to have fun with it if you are going to go down that road. I think when you do it in an angry way, I knew a lot of angry vegans when I was
Angry
younger.
vegans.
Yeah, you know, it at least at that time it was a choice that a lot of people made because of their dissatisfaction with certain things in the world.
Sure.
Everyone's got their reasons, but I think the way to get the most out of it is to have fun with it, even if you do it for a short period of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, let me know how it goes. We're gonna get back to the topic here. It's 10:30. We got 30 minutes left. We're back. By the way, we're back to these 2-hour shows. I like them.
I dig it.
It's bandless. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
How is everyone? By the way, I brought up Self-Inflatable's comment. He was trying to throw me a bone earlier, and I was too far the other direction in the chat. But thank you, Self-Inflatable, Future Machines. Self-Inflatable is also friends with the Jazz Monster, Matt. Matt the Jazz Monster. Or even, I think I clicked on that. Highly recommend. Here we go. Electric Meat Puppet. Always a smart fella. I highly recommend taking an afternoon and learning to synthesize a kick drum or a snare from scratch. Totally changed perspective on things. In terms of designing the ADSR, the attack, decay, sustain, release, like in a synthesis kind of frame of mind.
Yeah.
Because it gives you an idea, like, what is the essence of sound?
Right. Right.
And I think starting really small with a single sound and trying to kind of recreate it in a synthesis perspective maybe is an interesting exercise in terms of going like micro to macro, you know?
Interesting.
Great. Interesting idea, Electric Meat Puppet. I actually want to try it. I think apoplexia. Oh yeah, here we go. I was just gonna say, apoplexia has probably done this. I learned so much doing that, and there are now great tutorials on how to do it, including one of mine. There we go.
Okay.
So apoplexia has a tutorial on creating synthesis sounds from synthesis on his channel, and I'm pretty sure if you just go to his account, his YouTube account, you'll find it. I've been through some of his videos. I can't say exactly which one it is, but yeah, go check it out. Moving along, do you got your eyes on any
Let's see
on any
here.
comments? Back to apoplexia here. He says, I think Adam Neely said it in one of his videos as kind of a
I was
joke,
just
but
looking at that.
you're the only wrong note. The only wrong note are the ones that you don't play.
That's very much a jazz head statement. Like all the jazz guys I knew in college, they were always like, there's no wrong notes. And theoretically, there's no wrong notes.
Yeah. Well, there is only
However-
12 notes.
Yeah.
In Western music.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like harmonization between intervals, like every note has a place in any given scale. It's just a matter of like the 7 that we know as major or minor are the ones that are most complementary.
Yeah.
And then you can deal with modes and stuff like that. And then there's chromaticism, but like,
Yeah. And then there's
Wait.
slide and bending and
right. And the way that I explain chromaticism to my students in like the shortest hand possible, I'm like, the way jazz guitar players solo is they start with the right note and then they end with the right note.
Yeah.
Everything else in the middle doesn't matter. Do whatever you want.
Yeah. I remember I had a pal who was like really, really big on just like blistering chromatic runs.
Mhm.
And and he was really good at playing them unbelievably fast with incredible conviction. And
hard.
that was his whole bag. It's just like start on tonic, end on tonic, all is good.
Crazy. Crazy.
But yeah, a whole lot of passing tones, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. But what I like, kind of going back to that topic, or to end off on that topic, is I think it doesn't matter what notes you choose. I think a great practice though is like, what, asking what is the intention of these notes? Like, what is the goal of my artistic expression? And as you illustrated earlier, which was actually quite brilliant or quite insightful, is perhaps, there's this idea of like, does it feel good? Does it feel good? Well, maybe it's not intended to feel good. Maybe it's intended to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like abstract expressionism, painting, that whole movement in the early days of abstract art. A lot of it the intention was not to make you feel good, was not to aesthetically be beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Rite
it
of
really,
spring.
it really questioned all of these things. I hear somebody coming in. Did you hear that?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, someone's coming in. Oh, Chris is back. Dinner's done. I like it. But yeah, music is art, and art does not necessarily always have to feel good. I think Chris knows how to bring himself in. Sometimes I'm not sure if he can hear us.
He's just in there, just like...
We might have to dip out, Miles.
Okay.
The hack, like, let him come in if he can hear us. Oh, yeah. If he can hear us, then it's good. But if he can't hear us, then we have to dip out and come back in.
I just see him looking back and forth.
I think he's just...
I can hear Miles.
Okay. Because he did. How about now?
All good.
Hey.
I'm so glad we figured that out.
Yeah.
Amazing. To
How
anyone
was dinner?
Yeah.
Oh, the dinner was great. Very tasty.
Amazing.
Super.
Amazing. But what you came into there, Chris, is we're in the chat portion of the show, and what we were just talking about was having some intention to your composition. You can play any note you want, but what is the intention behind the notes that you're choosing? It's a good. You don't have to have a reason, but it helps. It helps to get something done if you do have a reason, but it doesn't have to be a good reason. Like, and I mean from the perspective of, it doesn't need to feel good. The intention could be to feel bad.
Yeah.
It could be very uncomfortable. There was a famous sort of punk artist in the late 70s, early 80s, I think early 80s, G.G. Allin.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the whole thing with that was like to feel very uncomfortable. And he made people feel unbelievably uncomfortable. It was.
I told someone that he was one of my influences once, and they were like, "Ew."
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Why?
But it was very effective in terms of like art. Thinking about art, music as art. I think a lot of people miss the artistic part when they think about music, because a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with this. Yeah, see music as it's a social connection, a popularity. Like
Booster,
popularity, collateral. There's a whole bunch of functions that music serves in our society. But interestingly, one that gets overlooked is that it is in fact potentially art, but it is not always art. So another thing that is often confused is that music by nature is art, and I would argue no. I think intentionally, if it is created from a place of artistic intention, then it is art, but it is not by nature art.
It has the potential to be.
It has the potential to be art. Just like...
Gotcha.
Just like with painting, And drawing
with
in general.
anything creative,
Yeah.
but like, is it a person who draws photographically? Is that art? Maybe the composition of the scene is art. It's a tough conversation, but what is art? That's a tough one. But
Yeah.
I think with music, there is a lot of music that is, it is designed to be a product, or it is designed to fulfill a specific function, as in being a theme song, or being
complementing a social setting.
complementing a
dance
social
music.
setting, to dance
Yep,
to,
yep.
etc.,
That's a good
etc.
example.
It doesn't need to be art. And there is a lot of music, I think, that the general listening population of that particular music does not listen to it for the sake of art whatsoever, and is like, huh, art? What are you talking about?
Right.
So I'm curious what the chat's idea about that is. I'm catching up here. By the way, Chris, get your eyes on some chat bits.
I got 'em.
Okay, good. And we got some. I think we got some. Lemon Melon is probably talking about some vegan recipes.
Yes, he said Texas chili and coconut curry.
Oh, tasty.
And I'm intrigued.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here they are. Yeah, get it in there. I had a delicious vegan dinner before I came over here. It was more of a just raw vegan thing going on.
I tell my girl we're gonna have vegan dinner. She's gonna like do a literal backflip. Like, what?
Chris, have you
She's
ever
used to me
gone
making, like,
the vegan
skirt
road?
steak and whatnot.
I have not. No.
It's fun. It's interestingly what motivated me going the vegan road was actually music. It was like the '90s DIY hardcore. It was very political, very kind of like a lot of like questions of like, who the frig am I, and what do I believe, and what is the world like? How do those beliefs actually fit into the world, and what is this all about? What do I actually understand, and what is just like a figment of my imagination?
Deep stuff. Yeah.
All that stuff, all those questions of your like late teens, early 20s, and it was all motivated by music. I ended up becoming a vegetarian, a very serious vegetarian still to this day, since 19 years old, I think, 18 or 19 years old. And I'm going to be 50. Wild.
Good for you, man.
So crazy. But yeah, I was saying to Miles, if you're going to...
Yeah, Earth Crisis. There we go.
100% Firestorm to Purify.
Yeah, dude.
hard line vegan. But yeah, if you're going to go, and this is what I was warning against, if you're going to go and experiment with vegan, I think doing it in the funnest way you can think of, have fun with it, as opposed to the, firestorm to purify the Banes App Society drowns in.
I mean, I still enjoy that, but I'll be a little bit more delicate in my
Yeah. But yeah, my vegetarian and veganism came from heavy riffs, propaganda and Earth Crisis and all of those things. Cherry picked the parts that all worked for what I was interested in the world being, I guess. I don't know, my world. Anyway, Apoplexia sums it up right here. Dun 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 dun.
That's it.
Dun dun.
That is the key
Dun, dun,
to a
dun,
good
dun,
song.
dun, dun. Yeah, Earth Crisis arguably kind of was the road to Jen.
Jojo.
But 13 Flaws says, I believe Aphex Twin writes with that intention. In terms of discomfort. Going back
Yeah.
Reed Engel. We were talking about G.G. Allen, and we were talking about creativity and like art, and that art is not always comfortable or a good time. And G.G. Allen, very uncomfortable Like I was very uncomfortable with Gigi Allen.
Yeah, dude.
But I think like artistically, I think he was very much like in line with that. And yeah.
Well, it's like it's performative art that is interactive, not in the sort of like contemporary way that we would think about it, where like a buddy of mine from college, she would put together the beat to one of her songs with a it's like a chest monitor microphone, and it would
Right.
pick up the heartbeat of each person in the audience and make this big polyrhythmic thing from that.
Wow.
And it's like a big interactive thing.
Yeah.
Gigi Allen's not that, but
No.
like he's like the other side of the spectrum of the same thing.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it from like an artistic perspective, but I'm Gigi Allen makes me uncomfortable. Well, I'll be really upfront about that.
Well, I would never go see Gigi Allen.
No, I would
live.
never go to a Gigi show. There's a couple. Are you familiar with Gigi Allen, Chris?
No, I'm
look it up in
into
your
Oh
part
boy.
time. You're not gonna like it. Although I've like recently I've known a few through
Whoa.
doing this. I've known a few people who are fans of Gigi Allen who have been remaking his songs in a very modern, like produced way, and it's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, Gigi Allen to me was always like unbelievably uncomfortable. But
man.
Reed Engel brings up like architecture in terms of uncomfortable architecture. I'm really a big fan of brutalist architecture. That I guess it would be 40s concrete German architecture. That's all very angular and sharp. I'm not too sure. Chris, you go to university. The university you go to, is it old buildings or new buildings?
There are a
Or a mix?
few. There's a mix, but they're mostly like they look pretty new. If
Okay.
if they're old, they've been renovated and whatnot.
Is it modern and cool or modern and stark and cold?
I like it. Yeah. It's
I like
not
modern.
like it's not super, I guess, brutal or
Right.
sharp or like it feels homey.
Right. The university here in Toronto is called the University of Toronto. Strangely, there's two universities in Toronto actually. One of them is changing their name because it. Anyway, University of Toronto is like Victorian era buildings, brutalist buildings, and then expressive kind of architecture, like storyline architecture, as well as like completely modern, steel and glass kind of stuff.
Lots of variety.
Yeah, a lot of variety. And it's a huge sprawling campus right in the middle of downtown Toronto. It's actually quite a buzz to stroll through and take photographs and stuff. Actually, that's what I should do this weekend. And Apoplexia is talking about in architecture, brutalism can be both awesome and awful. Yeah. And I find brutalist architecture very inspiring in terms of going directly from visual to sound. I find brutalist architecture is very effective that way, at least for me. I'm curious if anybody else gets any kind of inspiration from the physical world in that way for their music. You two, looking at myself.
Yeah.
Do you get any, Miles and Chris, do you get any kind of inspiration from the physical world, not musical at all, that goes into your music in terms of the aesthetics, translation of aesthetics from one medium to another?
Yeah. I definitely have. They're maybe not things that are like actually real, like places that aren't necessarily real, but if I read about like,
Oh yeah.
Like something I haven't read these books in like so long, but something that stuck with me was this one place from Narnia.
Yeah.
This one weird part. So that influenced one of my songs,
Yeah.
and then there's just these weird, like the song that I released kind of recently, Childhood's End. is based on a book called Childhood's End, about weird alien, just weird stuff going on.
And it has a vibe,
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
an
Yep.
overriding vibe, and you took that vibe, and
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Mr. Miles, any sort of non-musical aesthetics that have made their way into what you're doing with your music?
Yeah, definitely. I had a song that I had written with my old group, literally called Structures. And basically the idea was that I was kind of taking the concept of just buildings in general and how we as a society, we build things up, build them tall, build them big, and just go about our business every day, like commuting through the subways, commuting, like going to work in like tall business buildings
Yeah,
with no thought in the idea of like,
and
this
how it
isn't
came to
something
be.
that, well, how did it come to be? But like we put full confidence into this thing, not ever
Right.
thinking about the potential for it to fall apart in any sort
Right.
of way.
Yeah.
And I basically kind of like equated that to like the confidence that people put into relationships, whether they be romantic or otherwise, where
Yeah.
like you have best friends and you think we're going to be close to forever.
Yeah.
And
But that building gets torn down.
yeah, you know, like one day things start to break down, and if they don't get repaired, they collapse.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a song that I wrote like in college. And I think where my inspiration comes from now, it's not so much in a lyrical sense, it's more just from like a musical uh feeling that comes from like stuff that I see.
Yeah.
And that's when I started using weird stuff like Lydian mode. I mean, like, yeah, space,
Space
you know,
dreams. Space dreams.
whole tone scale, harmonized
Yeah.
in seconds.
Ah, so good. You got to be careful not to get into circus mode, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe not be careful.
I mean, I've been in circus mode before where I'm like, hey, this is great. You know what will make it better? Let's put it in 3/4. Yeah. Bop, 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 bop.
Anthony Nieto says hello. Hello, everybody. Just stopping in to say hi. Still
Howdy.
road tripping. Looking forward to the replay. Mr. Nieto. Oh, this actually reminds me, for those of you who publish videos, Anthony recently started publishing videos, and I know you too publish videos, and I know a couple other folks in the stream publish videos. I shared one of Anthony's videos today, and on some platforms it says video not available, and I realized that now when you publish your own video, you have to go into the settings and click allow embedding, and by default allow embedding is turned off.
What?
Okay. Weird.
Yeah, I discovered it on this because right after, like probably about 4 hours later, I was like, that's weird. And then I tried to share this stream because I always share it out before, a couple hours before. And it did the same thing. I'm like, what's going on? Then I looked into it. So yeah, check your settings on your videos. It's just in the regular, when you go to edit your video details.
Is this new?
Seems to be. So just double check that stuff so that
Okay.
your videos can be shared.
Always something.
It's always something.
Damn Google.
Joe Carter says there was a shopping center in my city built in the 60s that was super brutalist. It was demolished about 15 years ago because almost everyone hated it. Yeah, it's interesting. Like some brutalist architecture, it was just so actually brutal. Like it. And it's weird. Some of it kind of hit the market. It was like so brutal, like a really kick-ass punk leather jacket that has the perfect studding on it, and sometimes they look really badass and cool.
Wow.
And sometimes they look terrible.
Yeah, I'm looking at some stuff on Google right now.
Brutalist architecture.
Yeah.
Some of it is just like badass and awesome. Some of it is terrible. It just makes you feel bad.
This is kind of dope. But I could see why people would have an issue with it.
And whatchamacallit, Apoplexy is talking about brutalist architecture. Architects. And moving along here, Self-Inflatable says the architecture of density photo series was a big one for me a while ago. I know the one he's talking about. So there was a photo series called Density. I'm pretty sure if you look up photo series, Density photo series or whatever, or photo artist, photographer, Density, it was a photo project of, I believe, Shanghai, or at least the density that was going on in China. And it was just all of these really like tall or really wide photos of the buildings and the sort of symmetry of the buildings. And it captured it in such a way, like, yeah, these people just like packed into this thing. But it was strangely something beautiful because there was this sort of rhythm to it and people living their lives. It was, even though it was photos of buildings, it was very alive. Amazing series. And a great example of both architecture and photography of architecture inspiring music. And the music that Self-Inflatable makes is amazing. So I don't know if anyone will ever hear it. He's the guy behind Horse Lover, a band that I used to play drums in.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested in. Mr. Baritone Cult, he's heading out. Have a fantastic night. Hope you are well. And yeah, the world is opening it up and you're not far. I might come visit you in the months to come. I might come visit all you guys in the months to come.
Oh snap!
Let's do it.
Yeah. We're gonna be able to travel here in Canada soon.
Road trip.
I just have to make sure that I get double Pfizer shot.
The trick is to get all of them. Then you'll be
I wonder how that would work.
You'll be able to lift cars. It'll be great.
Turn green.
Yeah, dude.
And Apoplexy says a lot of communist block architecture was amazing. I'm not that familiar with it, but I'm going to check it out. And Self-Inflatable says Michael Wolff was the photographer of the Density photo series. Amazing photo series. Very, very inspiring. Anyone I've ever showed it to has just been like, what? Another thing Self-Inflatable turned me on to, which I think has become quite popular in recent years, is abandoned things. For some reason, abandoned things are very inspiring in terms of music. Like, are you guys familiar with Battleship Island? It's a island off the coast of Japan that was a mining island.
I think I've heard about this.
And it's fully built up as a city, and they were mining underneath it. It's the craziest place. I think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon might have been filmed there. One of those movies.
I feel like that's something they talked about on this one YouTube channel called Abandoned.
Maybe, yeah.
Like they'd go and like see abandoned places. The near my hometown, there's a psychiatric center called Letchworth Village,
right,
where most of it is abandoned. And during the early 2000s, every band that was in my area took their promo shots over there.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we're standing in front of this old building, like amongst like rubble and like rusty pipes and stuff. So like everyone's photos look the same. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I remember going through there, and it is inspiring because you think about what happened in those rooms and like what kind of situation was going on in those kinds of places where like there's beds for different kinds of patients and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, abandoned stuff is cool.
Abandoned stuff is crazy. Have you ever seen firsthand like crazy abandoned places, either of you?
Yeah. No, like there was Letchworth, and then they like demolished most of it because there was a big fire.
Right.
I think it was probably set by some stupid kids or something.
Well, stupid kids, they're taking promo photos of their breakdown band.
That's it. Yeah, shooting music videos and stuff.
Yeah,
there too.
yeah.
Roman candle.
Yeah, dude. So, oh my god. But there's another big building nearby where I live now that I'm pretty sure is abandoned, but they have it blocked off because people are like trying to go in there. The one music video that you saw of mine recently, that was actually in this like weird abandoned house that had this upstairs room that wasn't a basement. it was just this room with a real short ceiling, and like the walls were painted blue, and there were clouds and stuff, and
Right.
it was really creepy. It seemed like something from like The Shining or something, but I was like, yeah, we have to shoot the video here. We have to do
Torture
it.
in the
We have to
clouds.
find a way to get into this room. But they remodeled that entire house. Like someone owns it now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Repurposed. That was fast. Oh no, maybe not that fast.
No, it's been a couple years.
Right.
And you know, like it looks way better than it did when we first got there. Like all the windows are broken.
Right.
There was just like garbage everywhere.
Classic
Blood.
abandoned house.
It was
yeah.
bad.
Well, probably people living there at certain points.
Yeah, going there to do drugs, living there, like all that stuff.
All the horrible things.
Yep.
Chris,
Yep.
you're in Seattle,
Yep.
Washington. Have you ever been to places like Portland or whatever? I'm thinking specifically things like all the sand dunes. Like I find that stuff in terms of musical. Whenever I'm in places like that, I guess Seattle, Washington would be near the mountains and also the big redwoods. Have you ever been up to the redwoods?
Yeah, I've been to those. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are pretty sweet.
Yeah, I find that stuff like just gets me buzzed. It doesn't necessarily make a direct influence on my music per se, but I find it immensely is inspiring towards my creativity.
Yeah, something I really wanted to go check out was last year during spring break. I was gonna go with my friend from Montana.
Yeah.
And we were gonna go check out some ghost towns.
Yeah.
We didn't. We weren't able to because there was snow and stuff and whatever. But that would have been so sick.
Ghost snow. Well,
Yeah.
put it back on the docket, man.
Yep.
When I went out to Nevada, being able to go out to the literal desert and like just taking in the fact that like mountains are humongous and that there's
Unbelievable.
so much space, like you
Yeah.
shout and you don't hear anything in terms of reverberation.
Yeah.
But also like going out at night, laying down in the dirt and being able to see like the actual Milky Way, like that stuff. I was like,
Oh yeah. I grew up in a town north of quite a bit north of Toronto, and even though it's a city, it's a small enough city that there's not an incredible amount of light pollution, and there's very few cities up there, and I grew up in a town neighboring that where there was almost no light pollution whatsoever, and yeah, that was a regular. And when the Aurora Borealis, I remember the first time I saw it. And it
crazy.
was like in full force, and it looks like a soup of multicolor rainbow stuff at night, and you're like, why is the sky glowing and why is it moving like that? Is this an alien invasion?
well, that's what everyone thought when you could see the aurora from like around my area.
Right.
I think that was like last year or 2 years ago where that happened.
Because it's
And
getting
everyone's like,
stronger further south.
What is that?
Yeah, it's crazy, especially when it's like, I remember like laying on a car with my pal, like we were just outside kicking shit around, just being kids and being dumb. And then someone looked up, and I don't know if it was me or him, and they're like, "What is going on?"
It just makes you feel really insignificant.
Yeah, and we lay down on the hood of this car, and we're just like, what? And it felt close, it was so massive, it was so major, and it was right above us, and it was like, unreal.
Yeah,
It was
like
like a
that's the
thick
stuff that I take that
soup.
in, and I'm just like, it changes my entire mindset.
Yeah. That's the thing. Here in Toronto, you're in New Jersey, and are you in Seattle, Washington proper, Chris?
I'm a little outside of it, like
Is there a
hour
lot
or
of light
so.
pollution there? Oh, an hour out. Okay, so
half an hour or an hour, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
not too
So,
far.
kind of dark.
Yeah,
night?
it's maybe see like one or two stars, or
Oh, really?
I don't know.
You can't see
It's-
very much.
Can't see very much.
Oh, wow. Even here in Toronto, like if I go on the roof, I can see stars. Just
There's
not-
areas
not
of Jersey that I
tons.
could go, but I'd have to travel a little bit to get to them.
Yeah. Did you know that this might be food for thought in terms of creativity? There are people who have a phobia of the night sky.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry for them, but also that's great inspiration, I'd say.
Yeah.
Phobia of the night sky.
Yeah, they can't look at darkness, at space, without like
That
having a
is-
panic attack.
That's great. I mean, I get it. I totally get it. Like once you really like take in the like significance of how big space is, it kind of freaks me out. Like there was an episode of SpongeBob where Squidward goes to the future and he like just kind of like lays down on the ground. He's like, future. Like that's me when I was laying down in Nevada staring up at the sky and like it's just going on forever. And you can see it. And it's just there. And I'm like, nothing.
I love it. I'm like,
It freaks me out.
yeah. Other than the fact that space is pure death, like you can,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, that's right up my
instant
alley.
death.
Count me in.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Yo, Bezos, get me up there.
Yeah, dude, let's go.
Who? Branson. Branson just went.
Yeah.
Into the upper atmosphere for like 4 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it counts technically by
Yeah, it
the
counts
U.S.
close enough.
military's judgment.
Yeah.
So that he's an astronaut now.
Yeah.
Fine. Cool.
Sir Richard Branson. My friend Tally is pals with that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
He seems like he's probably a decent guy. To
He
at
is a
least some
decent guy.
extent.
He's just managed. He just ended up being wealthy, but he didn't start wealthy. He's an interesting story because he created his wealth.
Mhm.
You know. But yeah, that's another topic for another day. And 13 Flaws says, looks like we might be going back into lockdown. I believe 13 Flaws is in either Australia or New Zealand. I think it's Australia. And they were doing so good over there. What's going on? Here in Toronto, it looks like the vaccination. Well, Ontario vaccination is like over a third of the whole population, which is crazy. I'm like, huh? How did that happen?
Right.
There's 18 million people and over 10 million people are vaccinated.
I mean, that's better than
That's
a lot
enough.
of places.
Yeah, that's enough. I think it's probably 12 million now, but like,
I still talk to people that are like, I'm not getting the vaccine. I'm like,
Yeah.
you brush your teeth with tap water from New Jersey? Yeah. What are you worried about? Like,
yeah,
you're
I
gonna die.
understand. You know, I understand the reservation of like, we don't know long term. Nobody knows long term.
We don't know anything long term.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I don't know. I think your chances are about the same both ways, but in the short term, the vaccine will allow you to live. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I don't want to get into that conversation. It's too. I'm going to be 50, so if I only got a few years left anyway.
Oh, stop. A few years? Jeez.
Senile old man.
I know. It's weird because I don't look the part of your average 50-year-old, but I am going to be 50 in like 6 months, in less than 6 months. So
You look like it doesn't hurt, though. Like, you
it
give me
does.
hope. Because right now, everything hurts.
yeah, it hurts. I'm telling you. But I'm not sure which town this is exactly, but oh no, he's talking about the mall, the brutalist mall that was torn down
Ugliest building.
in the UK shortly before it was demolished.
That's amazing.
That is an artistic achievement. You know, it is
Yeah.
the Gigi Allen of buildings.
There you go. There you go.
Although I think Gigi Allen
Hopefully the
might be
building's not throwing poop at anyone.
the first most hated man or person or artist ever in punk rock music ever. He's
Which is
pretty
tough.
hated. Pretty hated. That's not a accolade that I want, but
Yeah, I was trying to
Don't
avoid
throw
that.
poop at anyone. Don't throw poop at anyone. You should be good.
yeah.
That seems pretty easy.
Yeah. Simple enough. Pretty hard to
What do we
mess
got
up.
here? Abandoned Warehouses, every metal band film clip. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so true. I think we can skip on the Abandoned Warehouse video. Houses, like weird houses. I'd like to see more mid-century modern, like stylish videos.
I see a lot more people utilizing a minimal approach to their music videos.
I like
And I
that.
think it's just because like budgets are tight.
Yeah.
But there's also just limitations in terms of like getting permits for certain things and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so, like, if you know a buddy who's got a green screen and some soft boxes, like, you got a video wherever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And
Good to go.
it's just a matter of doing the editing so that doesn't look like an old car commercial where you have like the green fuzz.
Or
Or
that's
unless you want that.
exactly what you do
Oh,
on
man.
purpose. Like you overblow it. Are you
Yeah,
familiar
dude.
with those, Chris? Like for you, I think the sort of the classic used car commercial would be a thing like too long ago for you to have seen it in the time.
Yeah, I didn't
But do you know what it
experience
is?
it.
You know?
I've seen a couple of clips of some very
They're so amazing. In
not
Yeah, man.
great editing. Yeah.
Ford Taurus had some bangers back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. There's that YouTube channel, My Mythical Morning. Before they got started with YouTube, before there was YouTube,
Oh, yeah.
they would do those kinds of ads on purpose, but like
Yeah.
way overblown.
Yeah.
They'd find a used furniture place and they'd go and pitch them. And they're like, we want to make you a TV commercial. It's going to be crazy. And it's going to generate a lot of business for your business. And they
And it
just
worked.
go. It totally worked. And if you look, they were so good at it. They just blew it way up. If you get a chance to go down that YouTube rabbit hole. I find that stuff like kind of inspiring for music in some ways. My pal, Self-Inflatable, he did a project. I did it with him, but he was the principal creative in it. The project was called Horse Lover. But I feel like that kind of stuff, that sort of tongue-in-cheek spoof commercial kind of thing, was like part of the aesthetic that was built into kind of what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's a big thing, like taking something that is not musical and throwing it into your musical motivation, like just purely as motivation in terms of the vibe, like how playful do the moves move around, or how not playful is it? How like dead serious is it?
Mm.
You know, this is a triple conspiracy court case. And there's a lot on the line, and it's dead serious.
Yeah. That stuff's fun to mess around with.
Yeah. Wow, a lot of comments have happened here. And more, Joe Carter says, I'm in the UK. Our government is lifting all legal restrictions despite having 2 new strains of the virus and 36,000 new cases per day. Whoa.
Dude.
Like here in Toronto, we only have like 10 new cases or 100 new cases a day.
That's like standing outside of your house while it's on fire and being like, all right, you know what? I was expecting
going
you
in.
guys to put this out by now. I need to watch the news.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good over there.
Yeah. Wow.
How many people are vaccinated? Are the vaccines not working? Is that what's going on? I feel like, I know in Europe there's a big problem with vaccine uptake. Like here in Canada, the only people who are getting sick are non-vaccinated people.
Same thing in New Jersey.
But the majority of people are vaccinated. So that's why it's kind of working here.
They made it super
Fingers
easy.
crossed. I don't know.
Like even with Uber, it was like you could get a free ride to a place to go and get a vaccine shot.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
can't make it any easier than that.
And people are just
Krispy
not
Kreme
into it.
gave you a free donut too. That was pretty
If
sweet.
we had a Krispy Kreme, I'd be covered in donuts, having the
Yeah.
best life.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. Weird topic. We're not going to get into it.
Deal.
This is a good one. 13 Flaws says Japanese temples would be a great music video. Getting in there to do it might be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
What's
little bit.
interesting about, it's hard to say. Depends, I guess, what kind of music it is. But Japanese are very like, whatchamacallit, like they pride creativity, you know, art and creativity. Not sure in terms of what the conditions of that are.
Yeah, I
but,
think they probably just want you to remain respectful to the building and what it stands for.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
no
got in
crap
trouble
No crowd
Yeah,
play.
well, I got in trouble shooting a video at a church once because they decided that it wasn't respectful to the building.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, church people.
Sorry,
Yeah.
church people.
Yeah, it's all that stuff is, you know, tread with caution. I always try to be respectful in everything I do, even if it's not my thing, you know, because that's the kind of stuff that allows us to have a rich experience of this life. If we can all kind of get in there together somehow, if we can make
I
it
always
work.
just try to be respectful because more often than not, I'm like, can you let us use your space and can we do it for free? Like,
Yeah. If there's no bill, that's best.
yeah, then it's like whatever you guys want us to do, we will do that and nothing
Yeah.
more. And
In the 90s here in South Ontario, it was very popular for shows, all the DIY hardcore shows, to be in church basements.
Yep.
And
Did that.
specifically out in the suburban regions, like Toronto, surprisingly, was not the place where you would want to play.
really,
Yeah, it was like cock rock bars and not,
yes,
I don't know, just like it wasn't cool. But like if you
Yeah.
wanted to play like real shows where the kids were and like it was popping off, you
Uh-huh.
would play the suburbs and you'd play church basements. And it would be like literally, you know, band set up on the floor and two speakers on sticks
Mhm.
and go. And it was
I've been there.
amazing.
Done that before. The priest was at the last church show I played, and he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you guys are so great! It's so
Yeah,
good."
the churches loved it. I think, you know, it was a positive because it gave the kids a place to all be together and you know, straight
There's
edge
no negative
was
influences.
straight edge was a big thing then.
Sure.
So there was no worries in terms of like partying or whatever. I'm sure
Right.
some people were probably drinking beers in the parking lot or whatever. There's always a few, but there was never problems that way.
And then they were struck by lightning.
Yeah, I'm curious, like Chris, in terms of being a young person, I think that whole thing is gone now. Hey, like people aren't doing the DIY shows like teenagers like finding a community space, putting on a show.
I don't know because I've never
You heard of it?
really never heard of it, or I've never even really looked into performing live. I've never done anything live.
Yeah.
So I haven't really talked to people who are, I guess, my age and perform.
Yeah, it might
Gotta get you out into the world, man.
Yeah, and just do it yourself. You know, I think maybe in terms of your college, like where your college is your college in Idaho or not Idaho, Moscow?
Yeah.
Right. And
There's a
is it-
student center.
is there a student center?
I should probably know that, shouldn't I?
Oh, you don't know.
Oh,
Okay. Because you're eating pizza pops, making riffs.
Oh yeah.
You're not
I'm above
bothered with
all
the
of
student
them.
center.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
The student
Yeah.
center at my school was cool because like everyone had the opportunity to book shows there, but then they would book like other bands to play there as well. Like that's how I met the guys in the band Battles.
Oh,
They played at my school. I didn't know who they were. I just saw
Battles
it
is
was
amazing.
like-
Or members of Don Caballero.
yeah,
Whew.
yeah. But like I remember looking at the stage and seeing all the pedals, all of them, like every
Right.
pedal that was ever built on the stage with this one cymbal stand that was like way too
Yeah.
high for the drummer.
Amazing.
And I'm like, I need to know what this is.
Oh, what an amazing show. You played it or you saw that show?
I saw them play. I played a bunch of other shows. Like I opened up for the singer from the Spin Doctors for an acoustic thing. That was kind of funny.
Spin Doctors.
But like a bunch of other
Won't
bands
you-
came through. And they had this thing called Culture Shock every year where like the year before I started going to purchase, Guar played. And I was like, how did I miss Guar? How did this happen? But I saw all these other bands, the Red Chord, whatchamacallit, Head Automatica performed, Andrew WK, and then there was like a bunch of other people. So yeah, I'd find the student center, see what they're doing. They might be doing something cool.
Okay, I was trying to look into it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, Battles. Oh man,
Yeah,
seen
dude.
Battles a few times. Amazing band, and Don Caballero was incredible. The guitar player of Battles was in Don Caballero, and the drummer of Battles comes from a band called Helmet.
Yes.
And yeah, and their EP, the Battles, I think it's just called EP. It's got a bunch of green leaves on the cover. That is such an incredible record. It's not really an EP.
When I saw them, it was when they put out that one album. I think it's called Mirrors.
Yeah, I think Mirrors is the first one.
Yeah. So they were touring on that, and I was like, "This is crazy."
Battles band, yeah, amazing that you got to see them and at your student center.
Yeah,
at the student center, Chris.
Okay.
Cool things happen in the student center.
I'm not even sure.
Just saying.
Okay.
It's time for you to take control of your student center.
Okay, I will look into it. I'll see if we even have one.
You go and talk to the faculty, and you're like, I want to make a concert here.
Right here.
Right here.
In your office.
In your office right now. It's going to be a breakdown concert.
Just an hour-long breakdown.
Featuring Synth Chris. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Battles is now has their full catalog on Bandcamp, which is very convenient because they didn't before. I just put the EP that I'm talking about on, and it's like 8 songs or something, or 12 songs. It's 12-song EP. It's not an EP at all. It's incredible.
Maybe they're just shorter songs.
It's like a couple seconds, yeah.
Not really.
Some noise core or whatever.
One of them is 1 minute. 2 of them are 1 minute 20, 140. But most of them are like 3 to 6 minutes.
Oh, they got mirrored on vinyl. I should get that.
Yeah. But we're gonna shut her down. It's 11:21. We're gonna go to 11:30, I guess. But John Stainer, drummer from Helmet, rad drummer, and whatchamacallit, 13 Flaws. They did a film clip in space in a giant glass box. It wasn't actually in space, but they made it look like space. I know. Yeah. Posers.
Lame. Yeah.
Got a lot of nerve.
Good night, Joe Carter. By the way, he's taken off. And Reed is saying he knows the church basement shows, low ceilings, low standards.
Yep.
Yeah, they were incredible. Incredible, those basement shows, the church basement shows. Like, oh, man. All of the bit, like Earth Crisis, Chokehold, Grade, all of the bands, Frail, 400 Years.
Yeah.
All of them. So apparently, Joe Carter's saying that the vaccines don't seem to work with the newest strains. I know that they work with the Delta strain, the India-born strain. Yep. Here, nobody's like, people can get the like when you get vaccinated, you can carry the virus. Mm-hmm. You just don't get sick.
Right.
But which is dangerous to people who are not vaccinated, because you can carry the virus, not get sick, and give it to someone who is not vaccinated, and they can die.
Yeah.
Not funny, actually. Yeah. Interesting. It's a weird time we're living in here. Apoplexia is saying community center shows. So yeah, same idea. Not church shows, but he's in Quebec, Ontario, or Quebec, Canada. Quebec, Ontario. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, I used to play all across Canada with some of my hardcore bands, and Quebec was an amazing province to play in, and we played tons of community center shows. The band I had at the time was called Arcata, and we would tour all the way out to the Gaspé Peninsula and back, and then across the St. Lawrence and go to like Halifax and New Brunswick and all that. Amazing. Post a horse lover link. Okay.
Don't sound too pumped about it.
Or wow, this is a sort of a self-promotion.
Yeah.
Old Bunn.
Shame on you.
I know.
How dare you let people know about things that you're doing?
Well, I'm not doing it anymore.
Not with that attitude.
But this is what I did with which is what's his name? Self-inflatable, who's also sometimes in the chat.
Yeah.
He and I did this project. He was the primary writer. He wrote pretty much every note. I just took care of some of the drum programming. It's all programmed drums, but I played these drums and then programmed what I played.
Cool.
Because we didn't want to go to a studio. F the studio, man.
Yeah.
I hear you on that.
No more big studio Bunn.
No.
Studio Bunn.
Waste of money. I'm going to probably go back to the studio.
Ah.
Well, I have a drummer, you know, Dave, the Foreign's drummer, great drummer. And I kind of want to just go and have that studio experience, even track the guitars there, track everything in the studio. And I know a lot of really great engineers. So it'd be kind of interesting to be like, hey, how do you think this should sound? Because I already know how it should sound. Killer. Synth Chris, do you think you're ever going to make your way into the studio? I think you and I are kind of similar. We like our method. Like Miles here, he's like studio all day. Sign me up.
I mean, I like the ability to just be an artist in that capacity, just because I'm always thinking about everything as it is anyway. So to be able to be like, I'm here to sing and to record some guitars, and then I'm going to sit down, and then I'm going to say, hey, you played that wrong. Hey, that's not how it's supposed to go in that part.
Producer Miles.
Yeah. But like at the same time, getting me and everyone else in the band in one room for a day, let alone multiple days, pass. Hard pass.
Yeah. I do miss that part. But it does need to actually function. Chris, you're doing stuff with a bunch of other guys right now. You're doing this band kind of thing remotely.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Is that something that could possibly be, do a track in a studio? Everybody kind of meet up.
Yeah. That was weird. Yeah, but
very, very serious contemplation in that voice.
Oh yeah. Again, maybe, perhaps. I mean, we have to all travel from, meet in the middle,
Yeah.
But also, I feel sorry for if we ever do. I feel sorry for them because I never write my stuff with playing live in mind.
Right.
So I'll be doing weird pitch shifts. Like this section, I want to drop it down 8 semitones. This section, drop it down 5. I adapted some gear or whatever.
You just need
also, I don't remember anything I
or a helix.
Yeah.
I have that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sort of coming up in the age of anything is possible, which is an amazing thing, because you become so capable of doing that work, but also maybe a little reliant, at least in the beginning, on that for the final end of things. So parlaying it into a live project might be tricky, and then suddenly shifting your writing to accommodate playing live, because especially if you have never really played live, you're like, what does this need to be? I write everything so that it sounds like it's going to sound live, and so that it can be played flawlessly live. And I'm like, if something is way too awkward, I'm like, it's cut for live. But I already, I've spent so much time playing live, I already know what to kind of anticipate. It's a very different, and it's something that, older people don't really understand, and if they're going to work with younger people, and younger people, if they haven't kind of lived that life, especially coming up through this pandemic thing, not only like if you're, let's say, if you were 17 at the beginning of the pandemic, well, you're 20 now, or 19 now.
Right.
And that's like a significant part of your kind of development, especially if you had taken to recording and whatnot and doing the music thing. So not only are you coming up on all these like amazing tools that you might start relying on in a detrimental way, or something that might hold you back, but also there's that sort of isolation. So like, how do I move forward in the world with this? Maybe everything is going to be different moving forward, because there'll be a whole generation of those people. Interesting.
I think most of the bands are coming out to the shows with laptops anyway at this point. And with the integration of like automated tracks, and then all the stuff that you could program into something like a Kemper or a Quad Cortex or something like that. It's definitely a different world, and there's different expectations of the venues now too, in terms of like what kind of sound they're supplying and what they have to provide for the bands. It's like not just power.
If you go on tour, if you go on tour, I don't know if you can book a tour with just an Axe FX or whatever, a modular backline.
You'd have to specify beforehand.
Yeah, you'd have to vet each venue. Is this venue going to be able to give us the kind of onstage monitoring that we'll require, as well as like enough headroom to supply a full front of house mix?
We ran into that problem with that band that was on America's Got Talent.
Right.
Because they didn't know to like call ahead or anything. It was like their first tour.
Right.
They were asking me if I had gas money and stuff. And I'm like, you guys don't have a band fund? Like, what's wrong with you? But we had a show in Massachusetts, and I was like, do they have a PA system that's going to be comparable for what you're doing as far as samples with the laptop? And they're like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's cool.
2 speakers on sticks.
It wasn't fine. It was like one of those old Fender PAs. It's like the all-in-one. And it was terrible.
Yeah, Chris, what we're talking about here is 2 speakers on sticks is literally that. It's like what you'd see in a band rehearsal. If you go to a band rehearsal and the vocalist in a great band rehearsal, I've been to band rehearsals that weren't this well outfit. But something for the vocalist to like hear themselves at rehearsal. There are tons of shows when you first start playing shows. There are tons of shows that you will show up at. That's the PA. That's the show.
Yeah, dude.
It's basically a rehearsal setup for a handful of people. Not too many people will usually show up, but.
And
so not ideal.
Not ideal. But
once you incorporate more than one vocal, it immediately gets blown out.
Yeah, it sizzles. Usually it doesn't work out very good. But here's the thing. Here's the tip to everybody is the bands that can flourish in that environment will go on to be great bands and will ultimately flourish. If you can flourish in a terrible live environment where there is really no sound support or limited sound support and everything to complain about, the bands who complain about it don't go very far, and the bands who kill at it kill everywhere. So if you can make lemonade out of those lemons, you win.
That's it.
Yeah. But we're going to shut her down here. 11:30. This was a long stretch one, long format.
Yeah, it was a good time though.
Chris, thanks for dipping back in.
Yeah,
that was fun. I love
pleasure.
that. I'm not sure what we have lined up for next week, but I kind of got the word from Nick Hill. He's full-time working now, and he's
too cool for us now.
Doing a lot of traveling with the
working man.
Yeah, so he's going to be not exactly sure what the status is, but if he's going to be on the show ever, he's going to be just dipping in here and there. So I'm not sure how we're going to exactly move forward, like how we're going to format it, but we're going to keep moving forward. So I might see you guys next week if you're available.
I'll be back.
And to everyone in the chat, thanks for hanging out. And we really got into we really went into it today. And I really love that. And there was a lot that was shared in the chat that was really insightful and just great. So I want to have more of these kinds of conversations where we really get into it. And yeah, anything you guys want to say? Your links, by the way, the links to everybody's profile is definitely in the description. I double checked.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Yeah. So if you want to follow up with anyone individually, you can.
Oh yeah, 13 flaws. It's the string situation.
Oh,
So I ordered the strings on Amazon, but for some reason they decided to send it. Well, I guess I should have double checked. It's on me, but it's being sent to my old address in college. And so I tried to cancel it just so I could send it here, but no. So I might have to have them forward it to me.
or just wait till you go to college.
Well, I won't be living in the same place. I will be living off campus. So
Right.
Is
But
there
I
like a
can-
mailroom that you could pick it up from?
I don't. We'll see. I can.
Bro,
I
you
can
gotta leave
it's-
your room. What is this?
Oh well, yeah. There is a mailroom. I don't know if I have. Like I don't know if, I don't live there anymore. I don't know.
Okay,
But-
okay.
It's addressed to me. It should be fine.
Yeah, you should
Yeah.
be able to work it out.
I think you'll be okay.
That's amazing.
The best
But you did
response,
get the
"Oh,
strings,
whoa, oh."
technically.
They have been
So-
delivered.
Yeah. Thank you, 13 Flaws.
So yes, thank you.
Yeah. I think I'll figure out something to make it to tide you over there, Chris. But we can talk about that another time. But yeah, thanks to everyone. And Miles, you got any parting?
Thank you guys for sticking around. Don't give up on yourselves. Be patient. Be okay with making stuff that sucks because you're just
100%.
making room for the good stuff to come out later. It's gonna be awesome.
That's
Be
huge.
patient.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna end the stream.